What's up, guys? Let me know if you can hear me in the chat. My mic's acting weird, and I don't hear the usual rumblings inside. But hey, everybody, how you doing? What's going on? Welcome to this chill chat with me and Alex. So, Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. Good to be on as always, man.
So today I figure it's not gonna be scripted. Not that any of my chat streams are scripted, but this is gonna be just we're going to be talking about some, the shows that we like and, shows that show the modern state of entertainment, as I said in the intro. So Alex, I figure, since we might as well start with the Wire, talk about the Wire. I started watching it. I'm a season in. I started season 2, and I'll be honest, it's not an easy show to get into. I'm watching an episode. I'm watching scenes. I have the subtitles on. And I mean, I've watched a lot of shows where you have to read a lot of subtitles. I'm trying to understand what the hell is going on in these scenes. Like, there are times where I'm just like, what's going on here? What are they talking about? Like pick and bust or bust and pick, or I just it's something that just kind of, it's something that's really hard for me to get into, and I've watched a lot of stuff. So
Yeah,
I like to hear your take on that.
I will always describe The Wire, and we've talked about this briefly in the past, but as it's almost a fantasy show in the sense of the universe that these characters exist in is almost as different from the life of a normal uh, rural or suburbanite than something like House of the Dragon. Like, that is how different the lives of the people playing the game in Baltimore is. And if you want to to get into that, you have to do the things you do with a regular fantasy show. You have to learn the language that they speak, because the language has words that we just don't have in our current vernacular. You have to almost understand the map of Baltimore to to understand the difference between the east side and the west side, and what it means that the coke fiends have to go from one side of town to the other. It's literally almost like um, Game of Thrones, in that there are kings of certain areas, and that the kings of certain areas are trying to maintain their power through basically their supply of heroin. Like, I mean, it's just a, and once you start to look at The Wire through the lens of something like Game of Thrones, um, it starts to make more sense.
Yeah, I mean, the like, for one thing, I've been The Wire. Now, I've been aware of The Wire for several years. I didn't know it existed when it came out. It came out around the time I was in high school. Flip phones were a thing. I was still using pay phones. I had the phone cards. So whenever, like, I'd get out of school, I'd call collect, or I'd call the phone. I dial the number on the phone cards to call my parents to pick me up from school. Especially if I didn't want to take the bus and I knew they were home and everything. So seeing the payphones and seeing them, use the pagers, just kind of brought me back to that little era right there. But like, I'm a big fan of crime dramas. I mean, I did a video on Dirty Harry. I'm a huge fan of the French Connection. Like that, when I heard about what they did with the French Connection, that pissed me off, even
Yep.
though it might not come off as nice for the character of Popeye Doyle. That's how he was.
Mhm.
That's how a lot of people talked,
Yep.
especially back in the '60s, when that whole French, that whole French, that when that case was going down, based off of a true story. Now, The Wire, I don't think is based off of any true story, but I'm
Yes, it is. It's based off a
oh,
book.
is it? Oh, is it?
What is the book called? I actually have it. An ex-girlfriend lent it to me, and then we broke up, and I never gave it back to her.
Yeah, I like how people are quoting me now, saying I'm a big fan of crime.
The book is called Homicide: A Year on the Killing Streets.
That's a show. That's the show that the creator made. It features. I don't know if Ice-T was in that show.
Oh, I'm sorry. What is
It's
this?
Yaphet Kotto from Aliens, and that was in that show. May he rest in
Uh,
peace. That was on NBC. That used to be. I remember that used to be on Friday nights. David Simon, I think, created that show too.
that was, I believe, the author of the book, but there is a book, and it's more the. It actually focuses more on Bubbles than it does on McNulty or Avon or Stringer. But
Yeah.
yes, there is a book, and it's. I mean, Jesus, you want to talk about like a really eye opening experience? Like the book gets deep into shooting galleries, which is what they call the alleys where the junkies shoot up, and there's a very vivid description of what it's like to get high on that stuff, and it's
Oh yeah, it sounds
wild world out there.
It sounds like you're. I mean, makes me think of hearing that just makes me think of all the movies I liked. I mean, you got Scarface, you had Carlito's Way, and of course all the cop movies and all that I just mentioned. But so like even with the French Connection, I was still able to follow that movie despite the fact that it was also based off a true story and that they also used similar vernacular. But it just this show felt like I was in the office, not the show The Office. I felt like I was at work and everybody was talking business and just using quick words and everything. I'll say this: it doesn't feel quite as accessible. I had to look quite a bit of stuff up. I had to look up I wasn't exactly sure what they were referring to when they were talking about shift rotation. I realized shift rotation is actually they would shift people. Detectives would be shifted with patrolmen, and so that way they'd be doing cross training, and everybody would be up to snuff on skill set or something. But usually that had that I was reading a essay yesterday about how that's not usually a good thing, especially now with detectives who have honed their craft really well, especially those who have been veteran detectives, like all your dirty Harrys out there who will do what must be done. They don't see themselves as heroes; they're seen as anti-heroes. But I'm kind of quoting Wheel of Time and typical what men do type of thing. So, but it's going back. I don't think it's a bad show. It's just like I said, it's hard to get into, like compared to like another crime drama, Breaking Bad. Like Breaking Bad, I thought Breaking Bad was going to be like that too when I first watched it. That's the reason why I didn't watch a whole lot of HBO shows, because they were not easy to get into. Even The Sopranos.
Oh, I agree 100% with that. The HBO model, and especially with this show, is they don't give a fuck about you. Like, hey, I really hope you know the vernacular we're using in this show, because we are not going to do the awkward thing where he goes, we're talking about the shift change. Oh man, I hate when I, as a detective, have to go on patrol with the regular patrol guys. It's just like, nope. Hope you got it, because if not, we're not waiting.
Yeah, it's basically they. I mean, I'm used to. I mean, I'll be honest. That shit is stupid in modern entertainment, where they say, where there's dialogue written that people would not say. It takes you out. It takes you out of the show. But sometimes I don't mind. I mean, sometimes it depending on how you write it, I think it can work at times. But today, the way, especially with Picard season 3 and all of New Trek and all of, all the well-known franchises, all the well-known TV shows, your Wheel of Times and all that, Wheel Prime, excuse me. Same thing. Just they it's very awkward. It's like, and Prophet of the Dragon had the perfect thing with he has the Truman Show, where the clip where the woman's saying something that they wouldn't normally say, and Jim Carrey's like, "What are you talking about?" Like,
yep.
So, but yeah, it feels like this show you have to do your homework.
Yep. So I'm going to ask then, What was your favorite scene, and why was it Omar in court?
Omar in court. Omar wasn't in court.
Oh my! Am I thinking of season 2? When did Omar go to court?
Yeah, Omar wasn't in court in season 1. Stringer was in the court. Stringer's looking.
Oh, I'm okay.
And then McNulty's like, nicely done. You know.
Okay, I'm thinking of season 2, episode 6. So remember the first scene in the show where Jimmy walks into court and Stringer and he are talking shit, and he says, word on the street is that this witness wasn't anywhere near that, and Stringer hits him with, "We ain't on the street, we're in the court of law." Okay, but anyway, phenomenal scene. But the basically it ends up being flipped where anyway, Omar in court is maybe the best scene in the history of television.
Okay. Without going into any details, why do you think that is?
First of all, Omar is an absolute savage.
I have noticed, especially I like one thing I liked about Omar, like he for characters in the series, he actually has the most presence. Like just him whistling,
the farmer in the dell.
Yeah, him whistling the farmer in the dell is chilling.
Oh yeah, as all the little kids run around screaming, "Omar's coming! Omar's coming! Omar's coming!"
Yeah.
Like, Omar is such a badass motherfucker that Omar wants you to know he's coming. He's still gonna kill you. Like that. I'm not going to say ruin it, but if you look up Omar in court, it is fucking phenomenal.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll have to watch it when I get into it, or when I get that far. But
yeah. I'm going to get a text on like Wednesday, and you're going to be like, "Oh my god, you were right."
If I remember it, I mean, the problem was I had to rewatch episodes because I just didn't remember what happened. So that's another issue I have with the show. Is just that I feel like it. I know it's not as easy. It's not as easy to get into. And I mean, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be invested in. I mean, I get it. It's they show both the system, and they show the other side of the system. You know, the criminal side. Yep. Kind of like how Better Call Saul, you know, split. You know, it's, you know, I guess you could say it's legal part, the Jimmy part with the Mike part. You know, I prefer the Mike part if you wanted to ask me. We'll get into Better Call Saul. But before we even do that, I might as well say hello to everyone in the chat. So I keep forgetting. I forgot to do that. So Dempsey's here. What's up, Dempsey? Lady Balefire. Lady Trip is here. Pips is here. The other White Cloak. Kidding. Of course, Salty's here, and I think and Jacob and Nas are here too. So I have to address this so far. Where did Pips write it? Where did he write it? He says The Wire is better than Breaking Bad in his honest opinion. So I'm curious. Do you think that is?
I do.
Okay. Because I got into Breaking Bad really quickly, and after season 1, season 2, I just kept watching it. I got into it right away. This is not a show I'm getting into right away, so I'm not sure why you feel that way.
I guess part of what I find so fascinating about The Wire is, you know, Breaking Bad is very much fiction.
Okay.
Whereas The Wire is almost, I don't mean to say historical fiction, but it's almost a documentary. And I will say that especially in season 4, there is a subplot about the education system in Baltimore that is fascinating and horrifying, and it's just powerful.
Okay.
And they basically do something sort of similar with crime. And it's just fascinating. And then they talk about the game all the time in the show, the drug game.
The game, the like you hear it in Breaking Bad, you hear it obviously. It's kind of embarrassing, but I first heard the game in Game of Thrones, believe it or not.
And it's ironically, it's very much similar in the sense of, what is it from Game of Thrones? If you come at the king, you better not miss.
If you play the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die.
You win or you die. So, and I'm sorry. So that's what it is in Game of Thrones.
Yes.
A decade and a half earlier in The Wire, it was, if you come at the king, you best not miss.
Yes. Or your family's life will be forfeit or something like that. So, and the way the show does set this up is in the very beginning with the trial.
Yep.
With the trial of D'Angelo, and Stringer's there, and he's just in there. He's not saying anything. He's just looking. He's not even giving it, a visceral look. He's just.
Yep, he knows he's got it.
I hate to sound like a tool, but he's wearing glasses. And I don't know if you know the stereotype between certain people wearing glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Curb Your Enthusiasm made fun of that quite a bit, especially with Leon having to put on the glasses in one episode to look friendlier. Terrible, but yeah, and he have Stringer Bell, and he's just in there, and the woman, the woman who witnessed the murder.
Yep,
I didn't see nothing. Didn't see nothing, so that just sets that up. So I did like that. I did like that aspect of it, but like. The fact that I wasn't able to follow what was going on, and I rewatched the first episode at least 4 times to get an idea. I mean, so Pips was the first one that recommended this. Then Steve right away. Steve. When I hung out with Steve, when I visited Steve, we watched the first 2 episodes as House. So. And then, you said it was a great show. So, I mean, I eventually want to get the other 2 on to talk about this as well. So, I've already expressed like my concerns with Steve, and I asked Steve what he liked about it. He just said he likes the aspect of how they do things differently in this series compared to your typical crime drama.
Yep.
Whereas like they have the Wire, they have the pagers, and they don't want to do the what they call it, the bust and the buy and bust. Yep. I think is what they call it, because that's what the people on the 5th floor want them to do, because they like one thing that they set up right away is that you learn the politics of the Baltimore system really quickly. Like the whole idea of, a witness being, killed and stuff. They're like, shut the fuck up about that. Don't you say that. That's not what happens here, because they're more worried about optics than they are about in my opinion, based on what I'm seeing so far. They're more worried about optics than they are about, the welfare of, the people they're supposed to be serving.
Yep. Because police chief is a political position.
Yes.
And, just as much as mayor, just as much as city councilman, just as much as any of them, they are all political positions.
Yeah.
And
so,
yeah.
You're right. They're all political positions. What's his name? The deputy commissioner. I forget his name. Burrell.
Oh, Burrell.
Oh, he is extremely political. Like that guy. Like I wouldn't trust that guy to do anything.
Nope.
Daniels, I like. Daniels, I think Daniels is a good character. I mean, they were the other. I liked how there was some doubts about him in the beginning, but he kind of find out that he's actually, in my opinion. I mean, I haven't watched enough of the show, but I think so far he's a good character. Like he's a good, solid character.
He is very much a conflicted man, conflicted between doing the right thing and rising up the ranks such that he thinks he can actually instigate change. But in his attempts to rise up the ranks, he gradually becomes more and more corrupted to the point that he's basically like Burrell. And it's fascinating to watch that development happen. And his monologue about you know, McNulty, I just want you to know that everyone around here absolutely hates your guts. So when I tell you that this is not your fault and that you did not cause this, I want you to know that's because it's true and not because I'm saving your feelings. Fucking elite.
That was in that was the episode after what's her name
Kira
was shot up in the car and all that, and he is just like, oh god, he's like, oh god, shit, this is this is on me. And so yeah, seeing Major Rawls, who was doing this to him, and the first thing we see him do is this to him, like, fuck you, McNulty, fuck you, and fuck you going to the judge talking behind my fucking back, huh? You know, like you know right away he's like, I know, McNulty, you're a piece of shit. And he says it throughout the entire show. Oh no, you're staying. You're typing up that fucking report. You're typing up that fucking report now. You do this. This is your shit now. So,
yep. And one thing that you asked me, sort of one of the things that I love about this show, and one thing that I absolutely love about this show is, with the exception of the nephew, every single person on this show is smart. They're not smart about everything, but they are hyper smart about sort of the things that they do in their day-to-day life. Jimmy McNulty is a bleeding asshole, but fuck me, Jimmy McNulty is a great murder cop. And you can just basically go down the list. Stringer Bell is a great gangster. Avon Barksdale is a great gangster. You know, and it's just it's very much an example of, you know, these people's environment makes them.
Yeah.
And yeah.
You said the nephew. Who are you referring to?
What the fuck is the guy who commits the murder that they start investigating?
Oh, D'Angelo.
D'Angelo, this doofus.
Okay. All right.
And D'Angelo is also a great character and is very much a symptom of you know, the system, that he shouldn't be in the position that he's in, but because he's Avon's cousin, you know, he's promoted to a position that he shouldn't be in, and he's putting the entire organization at risk.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's almost, it's like watching almost like a corporate environment where there was a nepotism hire, and the nepotism hire is fucking everything up. And hang on, let me look this up.
I am aware that based on what I've seen, based on what I know so far, I'm going to go on a limb and assume that there's going to be eventually there's going to be some conflict between Avon Barksdale and Stringer Bell over what you just talked about, because how the season 1 ends with D'Angelo willing to give up, you know, willing to spill the beans to Blab to Rat.
Yes. And there is Stringer has to make a very difficult situation because D'Angelo is a fuck up who keeps fucking up and putting them all at risk. And it's, you know, Stringer Bell puts those business classes to good use and weighs the risk versus reward and the opportunity cost, and comes to a decision about what needs to be done.
Yeah. You know, there's one character that I was delighted to see change throughout throughout the first season. That's Prespolowski. So Prespolowski starts off as a complete fucking nutcase. Like I'm gonna bring up. So I hung out with Pips. Me and Pips went shooting. Pips went through the entire gun safety thing. This guy doesn't fuck. He's a fucking cop, and he doesn't know fucking typical gun safety. Check the fucking check the fucking chamber.
Check the chamber, make sure there's nothing in it. Yep.
And then he shoots in the office. So the office, or the office that they get, the basement of like, I don't know if it's City Hall or it's probably City Hall.
No, it's some shitty rental building that they had that they wanted to get rid of, but they couldn't get out of the lease. Like,
yeah. Oh, so that's what it was.
Yeah.
And like, so when they're like, so he gets all these, what's his name, gets all these all these fuck ups from all the different departments. Uh, they're in this building, and I love how the actors, like how the characters react. You're like, what? Like you're hearing like work being done in the building. They're like, what the fuck is this? Can you fucking hear me? And they're all cracking the fuck up.
Yep.
I like the first time I was like, and then I watched it again this morning. I was like, this is actually pretty funny.
It is. And Prez is another one of those characters who is, a godforsaken dipshit about a whole bunch of other things. But man, you get him in his lane and he cruises. And he is, especially in season 4, Prez comes into his own.
Yeah, I mean he's season 2. I watched the scene with him in season 2. He's talking to his father-in-law. I can't say the P word, but he's let's just say I share
similar ancestry.
Yeah. But he's practically a totally different character. He's respectable, and he found his little niche. He found his little, like, his skills that they can contribute to, and it's changed him as a character. And that's I know, like I said online, that I have a hard time getting into this. That doesn't mean I dislike it. It's just, like I said, maybe I don't think it's as good as other shows, but then again, I have to keep watching. Maybe I need to understand how to appreciate this, but I'll keep watching it. I've actually, the weekend, actually, I don't know if it was the 4th. It was actually the 4th. I skimmed through the last 4 episodes. I watched through the last 4 or 5 episodes of season 1. So it got better. The series got better as the season went. And season 2, once again, feels like I'm starting at square one with this. Apparently, every season now, because I had to look this up, every season has its own little self-contained arc. So now, season 2, we're dealing with the docks. We're dealing with dock workers. I'm like, who the hell are these people? Why is that dude from Halo a younger version of the dude from Halo, the dude that played Master Chief? He plays the nephew of the main dock dude. Yep. So, and then you got the Catholic Church involved, and the Presbalewski's uncle is somehow connected to that same church because it's the fight over the stained glass window.
Stained glass window.
Yep. Either police or dock. Which one is better for the for the first floor? Fuck the rectory. First floor.
Yep. And it's fascinating in the sense of, it really is the politics of Baltimore. You just have so many of these competing interests. And, the dock workers union wants one thing, the police union wants another thing. And they're just stuck. And it's the entire city is so damn self-destructive because all of these factions battle for everything. And they just destroy each other, and it's just wild. And Pipson makes a great point. It's less a single story and more an entire portrait of how absolutely fucked Baltimore is. But it's really, really good. And I'm going to say, if you are not hooked by, I'm going to say episode 7 of season 2, I would be stunned.
Okay.
Because what you're describing, sort of the hesitancy with season 1, I have heard that before, but I will also say it is way, way, way better on a rewatch once you understand the language that they speak and the objectives that all these characters have, and sort of you understand
and the context.
And the context,
especially. Like, I'm trying to understand what the hell is. I'm not like, usually when I watch something, like I watch a scene, I want to understand what's going on. I mean, not only just what they're talking about, but I want to have an idea of the context behind around everything. And when I don't get that, when I feel I don't get that, I kind of I get distracted. I look at my phone. And that was the issue I had with watching a lot of these episodes. So. I mean, a rewatch was a slight improvement so far, but
Yep.
I'm just gonna keep going with season 2.
And I will say I rewatch The Wire just about every 2 years. I'm going to say,
Okay.
and a rewatch now when you don't have the pictures of Daniel's wife, or you don't have, I always call him Lucius, but I don't think his name is Lucius. You don't get his sort of background, and you don't see what happens if Avon and Stringer aren't running the show and making things happen. Um, you know, it's fascinating.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll definitely keep that in mind as I resume my watch. So since Pips is still here, I wanted to ask you about the Better Call Saul finale, because I've been having second thoughts about the finale myself. What did you think of Jimmy's decision at the very end to do what he did? Do you think that made sense? Do you think it kind of came out of the blue?
I'm going to say that I think it makes sense, assuming you get the impression that Jimmy is tired, in the sense that he has been running this um, for so long that he's almost exhausted of, to steal something from The Wire, he's exhausted of the game.
Yeah.
And him going to prison was very much he walks in and everybody's cheering for him, like, just because of everything he's done. He's almost a hero in there. He's more liked in prison than he is on the outside.
That got, yeah. So that someone actually, reason why I'm asking is the other day, someone actually left a comment, not Pips, but someone left a comment on my Better Call Saul video. My glowing, I'll be honest, it was a glowing thing. It was a glowing review at the time. But the reason why it was more glowing, and I mean, you could make fun of me for this, but the series has never really, I feel like as a customer, as a viewer, I feel like I had a very good relationship with that show. There was nothing but goodwill.
Yep.
So I guess because of that, I think it was easier for me to overlook some of the flaws. So one thing is that the finale tries to set up that Jimmy was thinking this way throughout Breaking Bad, throughout the earlier part of Better Call Saul, because they have the different scenes where he's asking about why, because because he has the time machine book. We see the time machine book in the beginning of the season. We don't know the context of it. Well, we find out that it's Chuck's book, and he's been asking. He asked Mike in the beginning. He asked Walter during, when they're about to, when they're fleeing in the final episodes of Breaking Bad. And then of course and then it goes all the way back to his scene with his brother. And do you think that it was not set up enough? Like they just kind of threw that into the finale? That whole idea of him, having regrets, because that's basically what the finale was trying to tell us, was that he had regrets the whole time. But the thing was, I think that probably should have been set up better than just throwing it in the finale like that. And I think that's what a lot of people were getting at. I think that's what Pips was getting at.
I do get that criticism, and I'm not going to say that it's invalid.
I don't think it is either.
However, I'm going to say that I think there was a desire to come up with a concrete ending to avoid 1900 spin-offs of that universe.
I could see a prison series featuring Jimmy Miguel, Slippin' Jimmy. But here's another alternate ending I thought for the series. I think probably would have worked better. He doesn't. I mean, it would be darker, obviously, but let's just say he doesn't help Kim and Kim. I mean, maybe he has a scene with her or something, or maybe he helps her ultimately. Let's say he does the time. He does the initial time, the 7 years. I think it was 7 years, and then he gets out. Now, because of all the criminal stuff, he's disbarred. He cannot practice law anymore. He's done. He's that door has been closed. But one thing that he did do in season 4, that he was able to get a job right away. Sales. He would be a top sales executive.
Yep.
And I could see him continuing like that, and once again playing a different game, playing another game, playing the corporate game. And Kim, maybe he'll be at the company that Kim is working at while she's paying off contingent or continuous I forget how they said it, but she the civil suits would be continuous. They would basically
garnish her wages.
Basically, and then he would probably jump in, be a white knight, and that would be I think that would have been an interesting way to end it. I mean, without really redeeming Jimmy. I mean, you want to redeem Jimmy, but I mean, I was happy that they redeemed Jimmy, but if it was set up better, I think it would have worked better.
Yeah, I don't disagree. That was one of those shows that was just so good for so long that they kind of left a lot of doors open for passable sort of off ramps. And I do, I agree with Pips in the comment that not every story has to be a redemption story.
Walter didn't have a redemption story.
No.
But I liked how his story still ended, because he still managed in a weird way to accomplish what he originally set out to do.
Yep.
Not what he wanted to do, but what he originally set out to do. And I was fine with that.
Yep.
So,
yeah. And I think the difference between sort of Pips and I's take on this is, Pips is looking at it that, it wasn't a hero story. And this is going to sound ridiculous, but maybe it's just Bob Odenkirk being a fucking incredibly charismatic actor, but I never really considered Slippin' Jimmy to be a bad guy. Jimmy isn't Walter White.
He's never killed anybody directly. He's never committed any violence directly, but he is complicit. And he's like, in Breaking Bad, he's literally said, go after him, or have him, deleted or whatever. Send him to, what does he say? Send him to police.
And you're not wrong, and that's so very true. And this is just going to be one of those things. In my heart, I've never. I don't see him the same way as Walt. I see him as a slippery, lying, scummy car salesman, shitty real estate tycoon lawyer kind of guy.
Yeah.
Whereas Walter was a fucking cold-blooded killer. So I guess that's where Pips and I sort of diverge on this conversation. And Pips, I'm not saying I disagree with you, man. I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm just sort of more of the position that they did enough, and he was enough of an ambiguous character that I was fine with the direction that it went.
Walter, I don't agree with that. Walter didn't start out evil. Well, he didn't commit evil things, but he had that selfishness. Like that was there. That was there prior to the show.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. Walter didn't start evil, not because he didn't have evil characteristics or traits, but because he was always captured by fear.
Yeah.
Once the fear was gone, because he was going to die anyway, we got to see who Walt was, not controlled by fear, and who
Yeah.
he was when not controlled by fear was a bad dude.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, why did he leave? I forget. I think didn't he say he left? I forget the company that he founded with his friends. But he had an affair with he was engaged to the woman, to his partner's to one of the partners, and then he just left. And I think it was he felt inferior. I think he said because he felt inferior to her, because they came from wealth and he didn't. So I mean, there's a lot of insecurity there. There's a lot of insecurity and, like you said, fear that was, that usually kept him in check. But now with the cancer, he gets cancer, and he's more emboldened to, what's in his mind, do what must be done. If that means strangling a dude up against the post in Jesse Pinkman's basement, or dude, when the final shot of season 4, when you see the flower that was named, that was the stuff that poisoned Brock.
Yep.
And you see it in his yard, I was like, oh, fuck.
Yep.
Dude, like I shivered. Like I was like, dude, this is dark. Holy shit. And so, and what I loved about season 5 was that Jesse was able to figure it out. And that's when shit just went overboard.
Yep.
And then that and Hank figuring out in the second half that, Walt is actually Heisenberg. So so it's a very that's why I love Breaking Bad. And after when I saw the moment, like, I love the acting and just the acting and the way, especially the chemistry between Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston, I think was a big reason why I really liked the show. And then you had Bob Odenkirk as Saul, hilarious, and you have Mike. I like Jonathan Banks. He always scared me, especially seeing him in Beverly Hills Cop and anything else he was in.
I mean, fucking
like the fact that he smacked Jesse. I was expecting him to smack Jesse when I first watched. It's like, oh, it's him. Is he gonna smack him? He did smack him.
Yep.
And that made me want to watch the show even more. Like, my expectations were always met. So.
Yeah, and I guess one thing that I think is really underrated about that show, and I think it really does play a big part in, like, excellent, prestige television, is everybody fucking looks the part. Like, they never tried to, get politically correct with the fucking cartel members looking like anything other than fucking wilding out Mexican cartel members. Bryan Cranston looks like a fucking nerdy chemistry teacher. Aaron Paul looks like a meth head. Gus Fring looks like an autistic, whatever. There's, they didn't hide from it. And I think there's a lot to be said for this prestige television, that your immersion is wrecked when you see something that very blatantly is out of place. And I think that's something that a lot of shows nowadays has really lost, whether it be it because of, racial diversity quotas or whatever. But it looks good. I think The Wire is very much the same way. Jimmy McNulty looks like a fucking alcoholic, cop in Baltimore.
So, yeah, just the way he talks, he definitely sounds East Coast. You know, like like the authenticity is there. Like for all my complaints about The Wire, one thing that it's not immersive, and and based on what I've read so far about the series, there's a lot of world building, and like you said, it shows different aspects of Baltimore. So, yeah. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And like the whole, like I said, the understanding the lingo and everything, especially with the cops, you feel like you're actually, you're actually watching real cops doing their job.
Hmm?
And especially those pieces of shit, those old pieces of shit that were in season 1. That old dude that gets punched in the face, like, I'm fucking retiring. I got fucking seniority. That asshole. And then there's the other dude who's always drunk or he's always high or both.
Yep.
And he contemplates falling down the fucking stairs. Like these are pieces of shit. Like there are characters where they're pretty good, but there's pieces of shit.
Oh yeah,
in this show too.
The Wire makes no illusions that the cops are the good guys. Like,
Absolutely not.
When they throw the first guy in the interview room and beat the shit out of him, and it's like, oh, perfect, we're here. Like, we are not lying about who these people are. I mean, what, Jimmy McNulty and I forget which episode it is. Every episode, he gets drunk at the bar. He calls every woman he knows looking to get laid. He does public urination.
The state attorney. I forgot her name.
Among many others. Oh, you're about to meet a slam piece in season 2, I think.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, they don't lie about these guys. These are not good guys.
No.
So I mean, it's interesting. But I wanted to make another point. The one thing that I really loved about Breaking Bad and Walter White was they did not have any issue making Walt a bad guy. And Ted Lasso is the one that jumped out at me, was with Nate, where I thought they were going to do something sort of new and not new and not unique, but rare. And they were going to say, Nate is not a outcast and a victim because because he's a nerd or whatever. He's a bad guy who also happens to have been picked on frequently because some of the characteristics that he has that make him a bad guy make people not like him, which is something that Breaking Bad wasn't afraid to do with Walt. They said, oh, this guy is the underdog, but the underdog is also a piece of shit, where Ted Lasso chickened out and didn't have the balls to do it.
Yeah, I did watch all Ted Lasso because of once again, I'm going to go with I saw that you guys were really hating the 3rd season. Ted Lasso is one of the shows that Steve recommended. I made a list. Like when I was hanging out with him, I made a big list of shows that he recommended I watch. So The Wire was one of them. Ted Lasso was another, and I liked the first season of Ted Lasso quite a bit. It was the character of Ted just really he sold me. Like I liked seeing him. I like seeing a relation. One thing about me, always had difficulty making friends. I've always had difficulty maintaining friendships. A lot of times because people either get bored or life happens, and being adults, things change. It's something I just don't hold any grudges over. But seeing relationships improve really means something to me. And seeing how they start off not liking him and everything, and seeing how his teachings and everything have influenced and have been very meaningful to the team, touch me in the heart. No, not that. No, not that. So
I will say there is something that show did so fucking well, and it's something that Hollywood just does not understand nowadays, and that is your average male viewer wants to see positive relationships between men. They want to see touching friendships. They want to see bromances. They want to see Luke and Han in Star Wars. Talk about that movie RRR, which resonated with American audiences because it was just two badass dudes fucking shit up. And I mean, you go back to stuff like Predator. I mean, how much of Predator was just Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger being dogs? Like, yeah, people love that shit, and your average American studio just would rather. Your average American studio, if I'm going by Disney, would rather lose on average $100 million a movie over their last 10 movies than show any kind of positive male role model / male relationship.
Yeah, yeah, you notice that you see this in like everything now. You see this in all the major franchises, which I don't cover for that very reason. And I'll be honest, I still have not seen RRR.
Oh, you gotta watch it. It is fucking unreal good. It is the opposite of The Wire in many ways. In that The Wire doesn't care if you're happy. The Wire wants to show you what life is like. RRR wants you to be happy.
Okay.
Like RRR cares about your feelings and wants you to feel good.
Okay. I mean, I have an idea. I've seen clips of it, so I have an idea what it's about. You know, and I'll have to watch it. Everybody has said good things. Steve has said good things. Zax has said good things about it.
So the one thing
if I do a review, I'll get the Indian viewers to watch me, and then my channel will grow exponentially.
There you go. The one thing that I will tell you about that is, people say they watch clips of that stuff, and the clips do not do that movie justice, because the clips that everybody watches about that movie are goofy Bollywood shit, and the goofy Bollywood shit is not what makes that movie. What makes that movie is I'm going to say the very powerful character drama, which is not something you typically get from that subcontinent's cinema production. So, if you're judging it based on, there's going to be a bunch of dumb Indian shit, action shit. Yes, you're right. It's fucking awesome. I absolutely love it. But the actual sort of story itself is quite good. Like, I really cannot recommend that movie enough.
I hear it's epic enough, and you have two characters on different sides of a war or something,
mm-hmm.
who come across each other, and it's just badass. So it sounds like something I'd like to. I just keep forgetting to watch it.
Oh, good.
I get recommendations all from every direction now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just having to pick and choose what to spend my time watching, and so yeah, it's like. Yeah, like getting into The Wire, just it took me a while to get into it. So then I was actually watching an anime series. I was watching the anime series next to it. Not anything like it, but in my opinion, just as immersive.
Was that the Battlestar?
It's called Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
That's you were telling me about that. I need to hang on. Let me bounce over to Amazon real quick.
It's not on Amazon. They're remaking. So that's another thing that's being remade. So they made an anime in the 90s. That's the one that I recommend. That's based off of a 10-book series written by a Dr. Tanaka in Japan.
Okay.
It's basically it's called Legend of the Galactic Heroes. It's basically a chronicle of a war, of a 150-year war between two powers in space. This is in the far future. One power resembles late 19th century Germany, and then the other side represents 20th century republicanism, or 20th century republic, basically. So you have your freedom, you have your council, you have your prime minister, you're more modern. So it's like an older, aristocratic monarchy, like literally the king or the ruler of the empire, the German side that I'm talking about is the Kaiser, and they use a lot of German names in the show. And one of the main characters on that side wants to basically undo the dynasty that established it, because like, and this is the same for the other side. Both sides are in a state of decline because of this war that's been, it's like that episode of Star Trek where they had this comfortable war for 500 years. It's almost like that, because like all the fighting happens within this particular corridor in space, because they're fighting over this really small, tight area where the space around it is all unnavigable. I don't think the show explains why, it just is. So all the fighting is done out there. So all the aristocrats and all the leaders on the Republican side, they're spewing their propaganda and everything, and they want to keep the war. They want to keep the war machine going. Whereas you have two protagonists on each side who are working to kind of put an end to that. One has the ambition to rise up in the ranks of the military, and ultimately, let's just say he ultimately gets ultimate power. And the other dude is kind of the opposite of that. The other guy's laid back, older. He talks more about his stances on because he's a historian, he's able to see through the other characters, like the other characters' strategy, while at the same time kind of giving a commentary on the state of state of the government on his side and also on the Empire side. And it's a very interesting take, and it's told through narration, and it's told like a history book almost, but it's very interesting history, a lot of intrigue, military intrigue, and a lot of political intrigue. And like there's like the theme of propaganda, there's the theme of and nobody's safe. This is a series where nobody is safe.
Nice.
And it's violent. Like there's melee fights, because they have the ability to drown out beam weapons or anything. So they're killing each other with axes, and there's blood, and it gets violent. Like you don't think it gets violent, but it gets violent at several points. It's got the best of everything.
Sorry, I cannot emphasize enough how much I love the trope, and Dune, I think, is the one that really sort of normalized this. Of look, yes, we all understand that projectile weapons are way better for fighting, but on the other hand, swords are really fucking cool. So in this sci-fi universe, I'm just going to wave my hand.
Yeah.
And we now have magical shields that stop projectile weapons. So have at it, boys. Yep. You get a sword, make it rain.
And they wear and like there's a lot of, I mean, even though this is nothing like Star Wars, it's not a space fantasy. It's purely, a space epic sci-fi, but it doesn't really focus on the sci-fi, kind of like Dune, like you said. But it's very it's mostly political. It's mostly about war, and it's mostly about political, but it's fleet battles in space, which is still cool. You see fighters, and the like the Empire in particular, they wear outfits. Both sides, they wear outfits that resemble stormtroopers, and that's who are carrying these large axes, and they're just hacking each other and everything. And like Earth is a thing of the past in this show. We've left the cradle a long time ago, probably because of post-apocalyptic, nuclear, whatever. And that's probably what the case was. But it's a very interesting show. There's so much going on. There are there's a lot of what the fuck moments, a lot of major events that play out. And even when the major events are played out, there's interesting things that build on the characters and that build up to the next major event. Like there's coup d'etats all over the place. There's there's a point where it was also a commentary on how people always thought, especially in the 80s, people thought the right were the ones that would be more likely to create totalitarianism. I mean, like you're in your V for in your V for Vendettas and all that type of stuff. Whereas now it's kind of not the case.
Right. Talk about Every political scholar from 1970 to, I'm going to say right now, um, owes us all an apology for that little fuck up.
Yeah, like I mean, you can understand it, but I think you got to kind of balance it out. Like it's both sides.
It's
Both sides are culpable, in my opinion. It's not just the right.
well, to an extent, yes, but the ideological capture of American universities by neo-Marxists is and was a significant driving factor in basically all of that discourse. But I'm off the subject.
It's fine. It's fine. This is a chill stream. We can talk about whatever. Heck, if you want to get into a little bit, I mean, talk about whatever. There was one time Salty was on. I was like, talk about whatever you want, because I know he loves to bring up, all that stuff too. So, but yeah, I mean, this is it's been an hour so far. I was surprised. This has actually been a great conversation so far, and it looks like I got a subscriber right here. Thanks for subscribing, Lord of Villains 94. So I hear transmission, and I think the transmission requires a message from Mike or young Mike.
Yeah.
I swear, if you ever show your face out there again,
I swear, Christ, I won't.
Ever.
I won't.
ever.
I won't. I promise you.
Oh!
Welcome. I haven't used this in a while, so but yeah, it's I was gonna say so like there's a lot of the shows, a lot of the good shows that I've liked have ended, and like we're talking a little bit about Ted Lasso before, like season 3, like the way season 2 ended with what's his name, Nate, going over to the dark side, like seeing him working for Rupert. I got a Vader Emperor vibe. I don't know if you got that too, but I like Rupert was evil. He was wearing a fucking cape. Like I was expecting to shoot lightning out of his hand or do something.
That show got many things wrong in season 3. But the decision to make Rupert a fucking James Bond villain was not one of them.
Oh, I
fuck
loved
me, that was incredible. Just absolutely crushed it on all counts.
It's just, and I had the same. I had the same conversation with Pips, and he said, and I agree with him. I felt this redemption of Nate was unearned, totally unearned. It just kind of happened
Completely.
out of nowhere. And so, like, Rupert's like, hey, here's some girls for you to fool around with. You're a beautiful person now. You have your own car. He buys him like a really expensive car. He's going out in style because he was driving that dorky little box or something, or yeah. I forget what he was driving, but
the Mini.
Yeah, the Mini. And Rupert buys him. He's like, you're working for me. You're gonna drive in some fucking style. So you get that. But and then he's like, hey, you're one of us now. You're one of the beautiful people. And Nate is dating that girl who was snubbing him for like 2 seasons, and he decides to be faithful to her. I was like, I'd prefer if he didn't do that and stay evil.
Yeah, and I'm very much the same way. Or if Nate was going to come back, there needed to be something. There needed to be a significant event or a significant conversation or a significant, outpouring of apology in order to make that happen. And it just didn't. And it really bothered me that nobody in this show seems to understand how much money people make. I mean, Nate signed that contract. I think the average Premier League manager makes something in the neighborhood of $45,000 a week.
Really?
Let me just make sure that my math adds up here, but
because I'll be honest, I know shit about Premier League and football and soccer or World Cup. I don't know anything about that.
I was wrong. It's more like 90,000 a week.
90,000 a week. So they make what, like
$5 million a year.
$5 million a year. Shit.
Yeah. So Nate Nate, and that's average. Somebody like Pep Guardiola makes significantly more than that.
Yeah.
So the idea that Nate is driving around in a Mini and is having trouble getting a date with the hostess at the corner diner is one of the most laughable things I have ever seen in my life. And in addition,
It
Ted
was
having
pretty cringe.
yes, and Ted having to go home to Kansas to be with his wife, his ex-wife and son. Like, no, you stupid bitch. Bring the kid over to England where you're making $1 bajillion a year, you moron.
Yeah, and the other thing, and I didn't even pick up on this, but like they never made it to Premier. They never made it to the Premier League or something, which was I think what they were originally trying to set out to do from the beginning.
So they were in the Premier League in seasons 1 and season 3.
Okay.
And then they wanted to make it to the Champions League.
Oh, Champions League.
But and they made it. The retarded thing about English football is in the Premier League, the top 4 teams make it to the Champions League, and the bottom 3 teams get bumped down to the minor leagues. So if you're not one of those 7 teams, if you're one of the other 13 teams, you just basically hang out. And there are teams like Crystal Palace who have been hanging out for a century and a half. And they've never won anything, but they've never been bad enough to get eliminated, which is where Richmond was. And it's a goofy sport, and I feel like the people who made the show didn't pay any attention.
I did learn something though. I learned what relegating means. Never knew what it meant until now.
Okay.
So if you really suck, you get demoted to a lower league or something, basically.
Yes, which I fucking love. Why are the Detroit Lions still in the NFL? Like,
Or the Chicago Bears.
yeah, I mean, or shit. Let's look at baseball. How many teams? I mean, how did the Los Angeles Dodgers have a $300 million payroll, and we have the Oakland A's with a $45 million payroll, who are going to win 37 games this year? This team is not trying to win. It doesn't want to win. Why should this team be allowed to hang out in the majors, taking out a spot, when I can bounce this team out, bring a team up that's actually going to give a shit and try and win?
Yeah,
Like,
and same with the I gotta say it, the Cubs. Cubs took the Cubs 108 years to win a World Series, and I'll be honest, that was the last time I watched baseball because that I had to fucking see to believe, because like I said, I'm not the biggest sports guy. Like I will hop on a bandwagon because that's the type of person I am, and I'll watch. Like if something big happens, I do want to see it for myself. So I did see when the Cubs were, in the playoffs in 2003. I watched the game where Bartman caught the foul ball.
yep.
And then they lost, and they were winning. They were winning by a lot. And
Yep.
then they lost that game because they decided to cave. And then the next few games, they lost. The Marlins went to the World Series. They fucking won the World Series.
Yep.
And I was just like, because of that one moment, or no, it wasn't that one moment. They just decided, they just gave up, or maybe it was something else. I don't know. But yeah, like literally the dude had to fucking leave the city. Like
Yep.
Bartman had to flee the fucking city. Like
Wild.
Jesus. Yeah. So, and then that happened. And then they didn't. A couple years later, the White Sox won. I was in college. I was at UIC, and everybody, it just got wild down there because I was a little bit north of the Sox park, Comiskey or the Cell, or I think it was Cellular Field at the time. I was a little bit north of IIT, but still, like it's just people were swinging brooms all over the place, because of the sweep, and it was insane. So it's just yeah, I totally agree. I think when teams don't fucking try, I think there needs to be a consequence for that, and when there isn't, then you have. I mean, I feel for the fans who have not given up on these teams. I mean,
Yep.
what's another good example? Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Like it's like, you know, there's got to be consequences. You know, there's got to
agreed.
be incentive to do better.
And
So.
I am, very much of the opinion that a major league sports team is it's almost like a public resource. In the sense that, so many people in the city, that their lives are connected to it.
Yeah.
So in much the way that we would not permit a large corporation to make our drinking water undrinkable, why do we let Dan Snyder turn the Washington Redskins into an unwatchable shit show? If you've owned the team for 40 years and you've sucked every single one of those 40 years, get the fuck out. The city demands a change. Time to make it happen. And I know that's an unpopular position, and only the Green Bay Packers have ever tried it, but it works well for them. But for what it's worth.
Who are the Redskins now? Where are they now? They're no longer I know they're no longer the Redskins. I forget.
The Washington Commanders. It's terrible. I know. They walked right into the Washington Commies.
I'm curious how I'm curious how long the Blackhawks have. I'm curious how long the Blackhawks have to live.
So from what I understand, the Blackhawks basically pay a bribe every year. They just write a check to the Blackhawk tribe and say, here's $100,000. Shut up. Don't say anything. We're just gonna keep doing what it is, and they pay it every year.
Shit. That's crazy. That's crazy. Oh man, but like, it's very interesting learning, like, sports, like how sports is handled in other parts of the world, and that I thought that was the interesting part of Ted Lasso in general. So, but yeah, but I love, like, I quote Ted Lasso now, like every time, like I dwell on something or I brood on something, I tell myself to be a goldfish.
Yep.
That way, I don't dwell on the negative, and I just focus on, going forward and just, doing what must be done.
Yep.
So.
And Bush McFadden, yes, Joe Gibbs did try to kill RG3. That was unfortunate. The Haloti Ngata did kill him. That was rough. Yeah, the one that sticks out to me, and the one that I always try to remember, is the be curious, not judgmental. And yes, Bush McFadden, Haloti Ngata was a 340-ish pound nose tackle for the Ravens, who was one of the scariest athletes in the history of the league. Like, one of those guys who runs like a 4.8 40 at 340 pounds, like just a human being that should not exist. And I actually had,
like, scarier than freaking, like, someone like Dick Butkus.
Oh, absolutely, because he was 120 pounds bigger than Dick Butkus and was faster than Dick Butkus.
Really?
Oh yeah, Haloti Ngata was a monster. I actually have a great Haloti Ngata story. When he was with the Ravens, he had the Ravens did a thing where they all had their kids, and so all the kids were playing soccer. And there was, Haloti Ngata's kid was playing with one of the cornerbacks' kids. And the cornerback's kid came up to him and said, why doesn't this kid talk? So the cornerback thought that Haloti Ngata's kid was mentally retarded. So he basically went over to Haloti and said, hey, I noticed that your kid is, like, retarded. Like, what school do you have him in? Like, he was just trying to make conversation. And Haloti Ngata basically just looked at him and like, what the hell are you talking about? My kid is 4. Because the 4-year-old was like 5'5", 105 pounds, and very coordinated dribbling a soccer ball.
How big was what's his name?
Haloti Ngata was like 6'3", 340. And he married a woman at UCLA who was 6'1" and a professional volleyball player. So that their kid was just a giant, like at
Like he
5
was
years,
5 years old and
like 5'5", 100 pounds, and was dribbling a soccer ball very coordinated. Yes,
five. No way. No.
Yes.
5 years old, over 5 feet tall. Jesus
Yep.
Christ.
The kid was a monster. And he basically said he realized that he'd called the kid retarded, and he thought his life was over. He thought Haloti was going to kill him.
How long ago was this?
This had to have been 2002, 2003 kind of thing.
How big's the? I mean, the kid's an adult now. How big is that kid now?
I think his kid actually plays for UCLA.
That's nuts.
Yes. I'm sorry. Solomon was born in 2009, so this must have been the late Raven years. So he's 14 right now. So I'm very curious to see what his recruiting profile looks like.
It's probably over 6 feet tall at least.
Hang on. There's an Instagram post. No, it's not. Never mind. It's not that impressive.
Oh,
But actually, at
That's
11, he appears to be about 6'1".
and Jesus Christ, it's probably gonna be like 6'5" or something as an adult or something.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yep. So sorry, I know sports talk. But yes, that's
I don't watch sports. I don't mind talking about sports as long as I can follow along and everything. So yeah, I mean, the reason why we're talking sports is we're talking Ted Lasso. So, and I liked Ted Lasso until season 2. I mean, there was really only a couple episodes that really got under my nerves. There was the season 2 episode with what was the name of the dude from Nigeria? I forget his name. The dude,
Sam Obasanya was the player. The tech guy was.
so he's like, he invites his family to watch him play, and he's sponsored by this particular company, and he gets a response saying from his father saying, why would I want to come and fly with this airline that supports oil spills or whatever, or destroying the environment. And I'm watching that, and I got angry right away. I was like, I mean, even if that's the case, I mean, your son is inviting you to a game. He's willing to pay your way. It's important to him. So, and then of course, that led to, the rest of the episode, them, kind of covering up the thing, which I was fine with, but I didn't like that. I didn't like that doesn't, I don't buy that from a parent reacting that way. That felt forced, and I think that was their way of testing the waters for what would happen in season 3. And then the season 3 episode, I think it was episode 9. The episode just pissed me off in general. The one where what's his name, and it wasn't even the episode where we learned that Colin prefers the company of men. I was fine with that. I didn't like that episode where, like, what's his name, the captain, I forget his name, gets pissed off. Isaac gets pissed off about it, and then I watched it, and like I forget exactly the context, but all I remember was that it pissed me off, and I didn't agree with anything that was said. It was like it was trying to virtue signal.
Yes,
I hate to use that word because it's overused, but that episode just felt that way. I didn't buy what they were trying to. I didn't buy what the message was. Just like, leave the guy alone. Like the character is gay. So what?
Yeah, and this is so. Ted Lasso season 3 stole ridiculous amounts from Los Angeles sports teams, and in Carl Nassib was the defensive end for the Los Angeles Raiders who came out as gay. And the entire league went, okay, cool, great. Like, we don't care. Good for you, buddy.
And I'm certain the players, the teammates probably felt the same way or something.
Yeah, nobody said anything about it. It was okay, cool. I mean, are you going to get more than 5 sacks this year? Like, what's the status with that? Like, does that make you a better pass rusher? No. Okay, cool. Like, moving on. And it just it's the shittiest way to cover all of these topics. And I mean, just think back to every shitty plot point in season 3, and it is a dumbass's take on something that happened in Los Angeles sports in that time period.
Okay.
And it's frustrating. And I've said this on Steve's stream about this, is I liked in season 2 how they handled Colin being gay. I think
it was season 3.
Season 2 is when
was it season 2?
So season 3 is when they decided that we were going to beat this motherfucking horse into paste. Season 2, when they were talking about the banter app, Keely says it's banter, and she spelled it out BANTR, and Colin said, "Oh, kind of like Grinder," and then we just moved on.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Ted
you're right.
Lasso, thank you for going above and beyond and not doing something stupid like making a 3-episode arc about Colin being gay. Way to get Colin being gay out there in a semi-normal, non-dramatic way. Let's get our representation that way. And then, Jesus fucking Christ, I had to take all of that back because they fucking destroyed him in season 3. Just terrible.
Oh yeah. I'm just like I would have preferred the subtlety. And like you said, like I didn't even pick up on it. That's actually pretty fucking good. So there you go.
I was like, man.
So why even I mean, yeah, I like
do you want me to answer why? Because I can answer why.
Why?
Because they had 5 shit-lived British women writing this season.
So it was. I thought it was written by. I thought he had Coach was one of the writers.
Coach was one of the writers.
What's his name? The
Roy
captain.
Kent was one of the writers, and then Jason Sudeikis was one of the writers. But Sudeikis was out getting divorced from Olivia Wilde, which, okay, in fairness, if I was getting divorced from Olivia Wilde, I also wouldn't be in the mood to write comedy. But they filled in basically everything Sudeikis was doing with 5 or 6 different British women, and you can even look it up on IMDb. It's a lot of the same ones that they had on season 2 and a couple of them on season 1. But because Sudeikis was out getting divorced, he didn't have a handle on everything, getting rid of all the garbage.
Is that why he left the show?
That's part of why the show ended.
Because of Sudeikis' divorce with Olivia
Sudeikis, from what I understand, was just bored of it.
Oh, was he? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But like, honestly, like, I mean, like I heard Steve's take on this. Steve believes that they just ended it just so that they could create spinoffs.
Which is part of it, is because it's one of Apple TV's only successful shows. They couldn't go forward without having some Ted Lasso property. The problem is Ted Lasso didn't want to be in Ted Lasso anymore. So you have to call it something else and you have to go forward in a different direction.
I just loved how he leaves the country, flies off, and while the entire time he is on the plane, Coach goes off and gets married. And you would think, because of the way they're showing it, that it happened while he was on the plane, which obviously was not the case. But like, if Coach got married, Ted would be there. Like,
yes.
I Steve said this too. They'd be best friends. I mean, they're best friends. He would be his best man.
Yes.
So,
there was an AMA about this season that was extraordinarily enlightening by Coach Beard and his actor slash writer. And don't read it. It's going to just irritate you if you do. Because there were so many things that were answered that sort of enlightened as to their mindset when they were doing this stuff.
Yeah.
And none of the explanations are good.
Oh.
I mean, Jesus Christ, were you sick to death of Keely Jones by the end of that fucking season?
I could not stand. I mean, I don't dislike Keely, but like I was sick of Keely. I was sick of like you barely see what's her name? I forget.
Rebecca.
Rebecca. You barely see Rebecca. You see too much of Keely and her, her new business, and like all of a sudden Keely is, she's curious. She's bi-curious all of a sudden, just out of nowhere. And
Well,
then
I
the owner.
I disagree with that. I mean, she was always bi in the sense that, she always made comments about Rebecca's tits. I mean, she.
Okay. But that's I always thought that was just something women do. Men cannot do that. You do that, you're like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? But the dumbest thing that with I mean, I couldn't stand she was sleeping with the owner of the one of the investors or something. I thought that was cringe. And then she tried to bring her she had a friend or something in the beginning, and it got to the point where she had to fire the friend, and the friend was a total bitch. So that was actually something I was actually happy for.
I could not believe this show, and especially in that AMA, they talk all the time about how smart Keely is, and I just want to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Keely is fucking retarded. Keely destroyed her own business, hiring her idiot friend who pissed off her main client. First of all, Keely shouldn't even have this business. Keely has this business because Rebecca likes her. Yeah. Then Keely destroyed the business, bringing in her best friend who was wholly unqualified to be anything in the company. Then Keely destroyed the business again when her fucking nude photos got released. And instead of just saying, maybe I shouldn't take nude photos and have them all over the internet, she fucking got weird and defensive. So she destroyed this business twice on top of not deserving it. And then Rebecca bailed her out again at the end. And her big, brilliant idea for how to save the business again was a women's Premier League team. And I just have to ask, how profitable do people think women's Premier League teams are?
As profitable as the WNBA.
Yes, so negative, largely negative. And I'm just
empty seats.
Yes. The other thing that absolutely fucking confused the shit out of me about this was, are we supposed to pretend like the relationship between Keely and Jack was remotely appropriate? Because I very distinctly remember a whole bunch of lectures about power dynamics and how it's not okay for the boss to sleep with subordinates. But I suppose as long as they're lesbians, it's fine and there's no issues at all about this.
Jack, if I remember correctly, Jack is the owner, the investor.
Yes, the owner of the venture capitalist firm funding Keely's company.
Yeah, that was just
wholly inappropriate, fucking weird. Why they broke her up with Roy, I have no idea.
And then Roy and freaking what's his name, Jamie, they're like Keely, pick one of us, like whoever you want to date or something. I forget exactly how that went down. Yeah, I thought that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Yes, I really am sure that the manager of a Premier League team and a fucking superstar of a Premier League team are fighting over an over-the-hill model who isn't that good looking, isn't that smart, doesn't do a whole lot for anybody. It's like the writers of this show thought Keely was something she just wasn't. And I don't know why, but it was fucking bizarre. Also, why why are we even talking about Keely Jones' PR firm in Ted Lasso? Who gives a fuck about Keely Jones?
It's about Ted Lasso and the team. It's about the team. It's about a football team, a soccer team.
When it's good, yes, but it wasn't in season 3. I mean, and it's like, okay, if we had to pick a woman whose story we were going to push, Hannah Waddingham is right there, motherfuckers. Like, you picked the wrong damn one. Like, I would listen to Hannah Waddingham read the fucking phone book. Like,
or have her pick up a spoon and just start beating Cersei again, like she did in Game of Thrones,
Couldn't agree more. There was literally anything would be better than fucking Keely Jones's receding hairline, and I can say that fucking dealing with Roy and Jamie. I mean, Jesus Christ, Roy and Jamie should be drowning in puss, not fucking fighting over this bitch. God damn.
They should be like they should be like in their own worlds. They should be like James Bond, like like you said, drowning in the pussy and everything. Just like have it like just, hey, let's hook up. Okay, done. There you go. Yeah. Every that would make sense. I don't know. I don't know if that was their way I don't know if that was their way of trying to be cute or trying to be wholesome or something. I'm like, it just.
And I guess if the question is wholesome, what is the message that's being given that's supposedly wholesome? Just string guys along, they're going to be fine with it? Because that seems to be like what the message was. And I don't know. Normally I can kind of figure out the shitlib logic that creates these situations. And the only thing I can come up with is they just were, Keely Jones is awesome. Keely Jones don't need no man. Whatever.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not going to watch any. I did watch all 3. I did watch the 3rd season. I completely, disregarded your warning because I know you said not to watch season 3, but I watched it anyways. And with all the follow-up shows, I'm probably unlikely going to watch it. So that's another franchise down the tube, and this is kind of what I want to get into next. Great segue. The current state of entertainment. So White Cloaks, you guys have done the rewatches of Wheel of Prime, obviously, on how wonderful that show has been to its source material, which is I'm bullshitting. It's been terrible. Like, it's literally like it's the biggest bullshit. And I've said this on other streams. It's like, imagine if Lord of the Rings disregarded like very, very important events. Like, for instance, Boromir trying to take the ring, or them in Moria crossing the bridge and Gandalf falling and saying, "Fly, you fools." It's like all the other big events, the Council of Elrond, all that stuff. Imagine if that was cut out so that Frodo can get on with a character made up, and then Sam would have a wife before going off to destroy the ring with Gandalf and all that with the Fellowship. Like that. That's what it is. And then Sam accidentally kills his wife, and Sam is just like, he looks at the camera and he's just like, I guess I did it this time, stupid shit like that. So, I mean, just like, it's just like they make shit up because they just don't want to adapt, or they don't have the ability to adapt something as that has gravitas, like the stuff that was in the source material, that was in, the books that Robert Jordan wrote, especially The Eye of the World.
Yeah.
So I feel it's a bit of both. It's both agenda, and it's also lack of talent.
Yes.
In terms of creating a show.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is both. I mean, Lady B actually tells a great story that, when she was in school, she was, doing film stuff, and one of her smartest friends had a really good script. And the script, was basically ready to roll. And then her friend basically at the last minute panicked and said, oh, I don't have enough gay representation. So she then had to go back and change up her good written script to basically wedge a gay character in order to meet the boxes not only mandated by the studio but also mandated sort of by her own corrupted, critical learning sensibilities. Um, so it's, you look at something like The Wheel of Time, or you look at something like Ted Lasso season 3, and the agenda is very, very visible. And actually, bear with me a minute because I want to compare and contrast two scenes, one from Ted Lasso season 1 and one from Ted Lasso season 3. Do you remember in Ted Lasso season 1 where Ted and Trent Krim go to Ollie's restaurant?
Yes.
So in it, they basically have a conversation in which, Ted shows up at the restaurant as he promised. He is kind to Ollie. He asks for more food. He asks to experience the food as Ollie's family would make it. He wants to experience the culture. He then tries to eat all the food because he doesn't want to shame Ollie, even at great cost to himself. Trent, similarly, is a curmudgeon, but we learn that he is upset about Ted being hired because he doesn't want the people of the town to be upset. And even he tries to fight through and eat the too spicy food. And then Ollie also looks good because he is so generous and so welcoming and so grateful that Ted showed up. This is a scene that dealt with diversity, multiculturalism, and just basically a whole bunch of other things. And it manages to elevate all three of the characters. You come away from the scene liking Trent, Ollie, and Ted significantly more. Then you look at something like the scene in season 3 where the restaurant is destroyed. And the team is around Sam. They're welcoming him. They feel bad for him. The team looks good and the team is close together. But the team has been close together and looks good and accepting since the middle of season 1. So there's nothing added to the character of the team. It's just wasted time. Similarly, Sam isn't elevated at all. He's just sort of the victim of something that happened to him. And he's the victim of a political thing that he basically started. And the only character that's even sort of slightly elevated is Sam's dad, who cooks for them and is happy. But Sam's dad bounces out at the end of the episode, and he's a one-episode character, and his character isn't even all that elevated. And the only thing that they managed to do was white supremacy is bad. And it's just, it's immersion breaking because, first of all, it's one of the richest streets in London. There's not a chance in hell that somebody broke into a restaurant, did a bunch of graffiti, and didn't get caught on camera. Second of all, London is politically the equivalent of Chicago. So the idea that there are right-wing people breaking into African restaurants in what is functionally Chicago is the most laughable thing of all time. Like, I'm assuming the people that destroyed his restaurant shouted, "This is MAGA country." So the idea is just basically nonsensical, and it's immersion breaking. And I look at the way that they handled those two scenes of multiculturalism, first doing it brilliantly and then doing it terribly. And it just drives me nuts.
I forget what happened in season 3 now that because now I'm remembering now the restaurant gets destroyed. I forget what exactly happened that caused that. What was the
the fucking small boat migrant crisis, which Jesus
Oh,
considering
yeah.
what's going on in fucking France right now,
Uh,
talk about. I mean, and it's entire. And I fucking hate when shows
because
do this.
okay, okay, now I remember I remember Twitter. You had I think it was the conservative. I forget what they call the conservative party, the Tory party
Yeah.
or something. The prime, I don't know if it was prime minister or one of the members of parliament opposing this, and he goes on Twitter and he states his opinion, and like his cook is shushing. So what's funny is he owns the restaurant and his cook is shushing him because she is triggered because of that. That's how the episode begins. I was like, oh shit. This so I forgot about that. This was another one. And so because of Twitter, because of his interaction with the woman on Twitter, that's why
That's why the
uh,
restaurant gets destroyed.
oh my fucking god. Jesus. Yeah,
Oh,
I forgot about that.
And it's just I hate when shows do this. And don't get me wrong, I do not want Sam Obisanya and I to agree politically, because Sam Obisanya and I would not agree politically.
Yeah.
But if you're going to have a situation where you decide you're going to venture into a political topic, man, you better not do what they did where they only really give one side of it, because man, that pisses me off to no end. And the way that they handled the international and the racial diversity in this show just pisses me off. I'll give another great example with Sam. Do you know what the penalty is for being gay in Nigeria? It's 14 years in prison.
Fuck.
94% of Nigerians think that they should basically give the death penalty to gay people. Yet somehow we ended up with Sam Obisanya, the most progressive Nigerian who bounced basically to England, has been here for 6 months, and is now all of a sudden the basically most liberal fifth generation person that's ever existed. And it's just fucking nonsense. So if you're going to do political stuff, if you're going to talk about how Sam is truly a Nigerian and has this Nigerian identity, well, man, then he better have a fucking issue when Colin turns out to be gay. I also fucking died in that episode you talked about in season 2, where he hands the tape to Isaac and says, we as Nigerians have to do this. And I just fucking died, because Isaac has apparently been in England and his family has been in England for many generations. And anybody who has ever talked to a first generation immigrant knows your first generation African Americans, and I know we're in Britain, but bear with me, don't consider fifth generation blacks Nigerian. Like, Sam Obisanya has as much in common culturally with Jamie as he does Isaac. So the idea that they share some, common Pan-African cultural identity is absolutely nonsense.
It's like you bring people here from Africa, and you try to relate them to people in the city. Like you could ask someone from Africa, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Kenya, or I'm from Sudan or something. You ask someone who's been here, especially for generations. I mean, I've seen this. I forget where I've seen this in older shows like Sanford and Son, All in the Family. You ask like Fred Sanford, where are you from? What country are you from? It's like, I'm from St. Louis. Dad was born there. My grandparents were born there. I'm from St. Louis, and then that's usually the end of the story.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like everything you touch upon is true, and I could compare it to here. Like you compare and from what I've heard, people from Africa don't like
Yes,
people have been here. People been who be descendants of people that were taken here years ago. It's weird, but
yeah,
but
it's bizarre watching Ted Lasso pretend that all that all
They're-
black people are the same, when no, guys, that's
No.
not how this works.
It sounds like there's and I've heard this said before on other streams, lack of world experience in the writing, lack of just a lack of self-awareness, and a lack of how would I put it?
A lack of realism.
Just being they're out of touch.
Yeah. So
They're
I mean,
just out of touch with reality.
so and this is why I bring up the shitlib women writers. If you are a 25-year-old shitlib woman writer who graduated from Oxford and has never talked to a black person other than the people in wealthy London, or who you went to school with who similarly are from that wealthy background, of course you don't know anything about any other culture because you've never dealt with them before. And you know, that's how you stumble into these situations, and it's just frustrating. And that's how you end up with Rebecca wants to travel. If Rebecca sells the team, she can travel the world. Like, bitch, this team is worth $3 billion. She can do whatever the fuck she wants. Like, she doesn't need to sell the team to get on a plane to fucking Vietnam. That's not how this fucking works.
I mean, how did the show ended with her maintaining 51%, and she sold the other 49%, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah.
To the fans.
Yes. I mean, great. I mean, the show's over at that point, but yes, Dempsey, delusional is the correct word. And yes, your secondary comment is also correct.
But like going forward, you know, especially with how Ted Lasso ended, and how, you know, shows have just gotten gradually worse as they've, you know, like they it's almost like a bait. I mean, I don't know if you feel it's a bait and switch, but that's how shows feel now. Like, they bait you with a good first season, and maybe a decent second season. In the case of Westworld, I think it was the first. It was only the first season.
You got one, yeah.
I've heard. I don't know if you've seen any other Apple shows. Like I watched an episode of For All Mankind. The first episode I thought was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard season 3 is not so good. So
I've enjoyed Severance.
Is that the one with Richard Madden?
That's the one
Severance.
with the guy from Parks and Rec.
Which guy? Swanson or
no, not Swanson. Ben.
Ben?
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, and Brian, I'm going to say I disagree with you purely on the basis of you're getting good first seasons. Where are you getting these good first seasons from? Because, man, I got to tell you, I'm getting a lot.
I mean,
of
Ted
fucking
Lasso.
trash.
Ted Lasso is a good first season, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But
yeah, but like you said, Rings of Power, Wheel of Prime. Maybe season 2 will get better. Maybe season 3 is where, you know, that's where shows get good. Season 3, dude, that was in the freaking 90s. That was in the freaking 90s. That doesn't apply now. Whoever said that's a moron.
Yeah,
So.
I 100% agree. But no, I think you are correct that there is certainly a dearth of good television. And man, you know, you flip a coin if season 1 is going to be watchable, but after that, good grief.
Flip a coin. The Witcher. If you watch The Witcher.
Fuck no, I haven't watched The Witcher.
Not even season 1.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant season 3. No, I watched season 1 and season 2 of The Witcher.
I didn't watch season 2. I've only watched season 1. Season 1 was I think there were episodes that focused on Geralt. I liked the end of the first season with just Yennefer fighting a major battle and Geralt nowhere to be seen. I mean, I haven't read the source material, so I don't know, but I felt like Geralt was barely in season 1.
So season 1 is tough because season 1, with the exception of the last episode and the battle with Yennefer, was actually fairly book accurate. And I'll be honest, as I was watching it, I was sitting here, guys, no, don't do this. Don't do this. People are going to hate this, because the book it's a series of short stories, like the episodes are, and it's not in order. So, like, talk about shows that don't give a fuck about you. Like you were like you had to really be paying attention, and I think the only reason that I caught it was that I was kind of like waiting for it and knew what was going to happen, because you'd get one line of yes, you remember 8 years ago when we did this, this, and this, and it's not even referencing the last episode, it's referencing something that happened 3 episodes ago. And if you don't catch that line, you're done. And they don't stop the show to give you that line. They give you that line as they're dancing and making eyes at people. So, that's that was my experience with The Witcher season 1. So, if the source material is bad, and bad's too strong, if the source material isn't great, I can't really expect the show to be great, except for the fact that why are you dumbasses adapting the books? Adapt the fucking games. That's what people want. That's the definitive idea of The Witcher. So don't adapt a bad book. Adapt the good game.
Yeah.
And then season 2 was just Hisrich, or whatever the fuck her name was, decided Yennefer was great and was going to be the main character, which Jesus fucking Christ. But the only thing I will say is at least Ciri trained in season 2. It wasn't a Rey Skywalker situation where she picked up the sword and kicked ass from the beginning.
I thought her name was Rey Palpatine.
Jesus. Yeah.
Oh God. Sorry, I I didn't mean to reopen old wounds with Star Wars. But yeah, I didn't even like, I swear, like it was like 2.5 years between season 1 and season 2. And I just forgot about it and never bothered watching. That's another issue I have with shows now, is that it takes like 2 years to come out with another season for 8 episodes, 9 episodes, 10 episodes. I'd rather have them put that energy into writing a good story, and then, then put in your special effects or your visual effects or whatever. It seems like the reverse is what's being prioritized now, and it's hard to get in these type of shows because they're just boring. They're boring, and they're like, and the stuff that they talk about is not interesting, and they don't even follow up on each other. I mean, they even break their own rules. I mean, like we talked about with the show that I kind of forced you to watch with me. Well, didn't force you. I asked you. Picard, season 3. And that was another show that, I mean, if you didn't remember the older shows, you liked it. I asked someone today on Twitter. Someone on Twitter is like, Terry Trek is going to be great. We should have Terry run Star Wars. You should have him run this. We should have him run that. And instead of doing what I usually do on Twitter, saying why I think it sucked, all I asked was, what did you like about it? And because this was also under Terry Metallis's stream, I just didn't want to, start something with, someone else. And they're like, oh, I love the fact that the shapeshifters, the changelings were in there, even though it might break some canon. I'm like, I didn't respond to that, but I was just like, you like that, and you like the fact that Captain Shaw was like Captain Jellicoe from the episode, the 2-part Chain of Command. There's one thing though, Captain Jellicoe might have been a little insecure, but he was pretty based, and he ultimately ended up on top. Shaw was a bitch, ultimately.
Yes,
Shaw was a bitch. He did not step up for the crew. He did not step up when they were in their little Negan Walking Dead situation. It was 7 of 9 that had to step up. So that was the issue. And then the shapeshifters, the fucking shapeshifters, those guys that board Beverly's ship and start a firefight with her. I mean, if you remember, I mean,
let the record reflect that Beverly Crusher single-handedly killed 3 changelings.
Yes. Here's the thing. Shapeshifters would not go into a firefight. If they want to eliminate her, all they have to do is turn into a puddle of goo, travel on the floor, materialize behind her, and then just turn their arm into a tentacle and kill her.
Yep.
Easy. That's it.
Yeah. So I guess the Star Trek fans are literally the abused ex-girlfriend, where, I mean, Jesus Christ, like if you don't actively physically try and reach out of your screen and hit them, they fucking love that show. And it's bizarre. And it's like, okay, we aren't going to outright lecture you about shitty lib-tier politics in this season. Like, we're not even going to hold back on the hero's journey. We're not going to hold back on it's going to be 5 women leading the bridge crew, at the end of the season. We're not even going to pretend not to do that shit. We're just not going to actively tell you that we should have unfettered illegal immigration, that trying to stop that is bad. And so long as we don't actively tell you that stopping illegal immigration is bad, Star Trek fans will eat it up. That's where that fan base is at. That fan base is broken.
Yeah, and what's even weirder is people that, that might be on, this side of the culture war, so to speak, have been for it as well. And in bigger channels that I'm not going to name here have basically went on record to say that the show was phenomenal, that the show was actually good. And then now they're making another series, season 2 of Strange New Worlds. And let's just be honest, Strange New Worlds, first season, the moment I learned who was the characters, and I mean, it wasn't so much the casting, but it was who the choice of characters that they were going to use. I knew right away it was going to be garbage. But at the same time, just like Picard season 3, I was curious. I'm a major TOS fan. I mean, original series is my favorite, probably my favorite TV show of all time. It's probably the one I'm the most familiar with.
Yep.
And I'm familiar with the pilot, The Cage. And that's basically what Strange New Worlds is supposed to be. It's basically the way they first announced it. It's supposed to be the Captain Pike show that we never got, which ultimately ended up becoming, original series. Well, instead of including characters from the pilot, from The Cage, they decided to do the opposite and make characters who were side characters in the original series as like the main, like for instance, the Doctor. The original Doctor was Dr. Boyce in The Cage. He was elderly, but he was kind of like the McCoy to Captain Pike in a way. Yep. He still had the same relationship that eventually evolved into McCoy. But they didn't include him because he is the color is wrong.
There's a melanin deficiency.
Yes. So they put in another character that existed that was only in 2 episodes of the original series, Dr. Mabanga, and he was the one that operates on Spock. He saved Spock's life in an episode of season 2. Well, they recasted him and made him the chief medical officer in Strange New Worlds. But how would that make sense if he's not the chief medical officer in the original series under McCoy? Does some type of supremacy happen or some discrimination happen that causes Mabanga to be demoted and McCoy to be, made thing? Or maybe Kirk is just an asshole because they cast Kirk. He's one of those guys from that one vampire show, Vampire Diaries or something, I think, one of those actors. And they kind of made him look like an idiot in an episode where they tried to retell the episode Balance of Terror, but with Captain Pike being in command of the Enterprise instead of Kirk. And Captain Pike decided not to go and destroy the Romulan ship before it could get back to the neutral zone. And because they didn't do that, well, they fucked the galaxy over with a war. So, and I just, based on that and based on watching some of the episodes, they added this character named Lon, who is a descendant of Khan. And there's literally an episode where she bitches about her ancestry, about how bad her ancestor was. And I was just like, does that not sound familiar with how younger people kind of view, the past?
Well, to an extent, yeah, but I mean, Jesus Christ, man. We were watching Picard. You saw those same fucking advertisements for that Strange New World show.
Yeah.
That Jesus Christ, that commercial made me want to put a gun in my mouth every time they started that episode. Like, fucking cringe as fuck.
And that same character, from the very first episode, season 1, just completely abuses Spock.
Oh,
It gets to a point where, like, I prefer Zachary Quinto's screaming Khan in Star Trek Into Darkness over Ethan Peck's version of Spock, where he just keeps getting, abused and treated like an idiot by, this character Lon, who apparently, I don't know, never existed before. So there you go. And so I watched 5 episodes of that first season, and then out of curiosity, while Picard was going on, because I still had Paramount Plus, I watched that Balance of Terror, What If, and everything. And it was just like they literally said some of the same lines from the original episode. The problem is the acting is awful. The acting and writing is awful, and the gravitas that was the original series, the way they delivered the lines back in the day, Leonard Nimoy's delivery of weakness is something we dare not show, or Mark Leonard as the Romulan commander saying, you and I are of a kind. I could have called you friend. Like, they said all that same shit in the episode, but there was none of the charisma and none of the gravitas. And that's just the way I feel about modern entertainment in general. It's just a step down in almost every regard.
Yeah, and a lot of it is because
more expensive.
A lot of it is because they have fucking children playing it. Like I watched, there was some original series on when I was in Alabama, and my friend and I were watching it because we literally, the TV, that was the only thing we could get on the TV. And it struck me, and it struck him, we were talking about, like, wow, like, this was a filler episodes from a mid-tier season of TOS. And I mean, we were struck by how good it was from a writing perspective, and the gravitas of the characters, and how, when they had an argument, it sounded like two intelligent people speaking to one another. And I mean, Jesus Christ, New Trek, it's like fucking autistic teenagers. And I'm just
I like science.
Yeah,
that's the power of math, people.
Oh, and it's. I mean, Lady Balefire talks about it a lot. Is we are now living in an age where shit tier fanfics are now being turned into $200 and $300 million productions, and like stuff that would get shredded on fucking fanfic.net. I mean, Jesus Christ, can you imagine if some dipshit wrote Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny? I mean, they would be getting made fun of by people who write bad fan fiction, would be making fun of that. And Disney is going to now lose $500 million on this movie.
So did you hear all the speaking of Dial of I've heard so many nicknames for this movie, Dial of Dumpster, the Diaper of Destiny. I've heard so many things. But now because of this, the once again, the Kathleen Kennedy videos and articles are popping up saying is Kathleen Kennedy fired? Blah blah blah. Is Kathleen Kennedy this? And it's just like, well, it's another series that, once again, it's another movie that just was nothing but forced. It didn't need to be made. It didn't add anything. In my opinion, it detracted. It was a sad movie. It was just a sad movie that tried to be adventurous, but all the heavy lifting, all the heavy action was somehow carried out by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and it looked awful. Like, she's not an actress that I could see doing action scenes like that, like punching and jumping on cars, or in the case she rescues Indy. Indy's about to be a plane's is flying off, or is about to take off, and she's following the plane in the rain on a motorcycle and jumps onto the the landing wheel, and then just boards the plane and rescues him. And it didn't feel like an Indiana Jones movie. just like these new Trek shows don't feel like Star Trek shows. Like it's lost quite a bit of its identity.
It's lost its entirety of its identity. And I can't take credit for this line because it was from Mahler on the Drinker Show. But he said, you could define Kathleen Kennedy's role at the head of Lucasfilm as a decade-long series of turning off the money printing machines. As in, Star Trek and Indiana Jones were both a free license to print money. And she turned off the money printing machine. And I don't think she's going to get fired. She's 71 years old. She's going to retire. They're going to let her retire with dignity. But at this point, what does it matter? Star Wars is a dead property. Indiana Jones is a dead property. I would argue that Willow was never not a dead property after 1990, but Willow is a dead property. So they have managed to kill all three of the Lucasfilm properties. An incredible achievement. Like, I genuinely don't. I say this about Marvel shows. If you paid me to destroy this franchise, but you said you can't get called out on destroying the franchise on purpose, I would not have made as shitty products as Lucasfilm has made in the last decade. I would think, no way. I can't make a combination of TLJ and Rise of Skywalker, throw those two scripts in a blender, and shit it out on Indiana Jones and make that movie. Like, people would call me out. They would say, you are intentionally trying to destroy this franchise. But that's what she did. I don't know what to say about it, but it's remarkable.
It's like a lot of people are saying it's more about it's more about a certain type of score than it is about making a profit now. And just the longer this happens, the longer things like this, go on, the more it's believable. Yeah. I mean, what's weird is like with Star Wars, when Disney took over, they still, like, some of the animated shows were okay. Like, Star Wars Rebels, for instance, was an okay show. It was much better than what the movies ultimately became. I don't think I watched. The only thing I watched animated was the Rebel show because that came out before the movies. And what's funny is that still managed to. It wasn't as good as the Clone Wars. The animated Clone Wars. I know a lot of people, especially big EU fans, are going to say the Clone Wars, the Lucas one was shit. I get it. It kind of went outside of established canon and lore that that the EU was building up to. I get it. But at the same time, I still felt like it was a good story. I got excited for the arcs. It was the arc based. It was written like an arc based story. Like every 4 episodes was a complete story, and usually they followed up on each other season by season, kind of the way Star Trek: The Next Generation did with some of their episodes. So that was something I could easily get behind, and I think that I love the final season, especially the final arc that they did for Clone Wars. But after that, Mandalorian didn't impress me. Even season 1. There was a few good episodes. The final 2 episodes of season 1 was actually pretty good, but actually the final 3 episodes were pretty good. So season 1 was the best season. I tried watching season 2. It didn't quite get better, but it got the way they brought Boba Fett in and the way they treated him. I was like, shit. And then it turned out to be the case, especially with the Book of Boba Fett. So that's why I didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett. And then
I will say, we were talking about how abused the Star Trek fandom is. The Star Wars fandom is very similar.
Yeah.
And, well, I'm going to say it. Nobody is as abused as the Star Trek fandom. Like, that fandom has just been kicked in the nuts repeatedly.
I've literally let go.
Yeah.
I've literally let go. I will still watch, I still have my classic shows up to Enterprise and the movies. up to Nemesis.
Mhm.
But after that, I just can't. I just can't get into it anymore. Star Trek lost its identity after that, in my
Yes,
opinion.
it 100% did. But Star Wars fans are getting there. And my evidence of this is season 1 of The Mandalorian is fucking Walker, Texas Ranger in space. And
It's basically Lone Wolf and Cub in space.
yeah,
I mean, they literally Baby Yoda is literally the young boy, and the Mandalorian is supposed to be like the father.
yeah.
And like,
so
and they did that with Luke, like the season 2 episode where Luke makes the young boy, or sorry, Baby Yoda choose, either the helmet or the lightsaber, was basically the same from Lone Wolf and Cub, where the father makes the toddler choose either the sword and walk with him into into a world of hell, or choose the ball, the toy, and that way the father would kill his son, and his son would reunite with his mother, and he would be spared the life of hardship in hell, as translated. So obviously in the case of Star Wars, it's not that dark. It was just either be a Jedi or rejoin the Mandalorian. So but yeah, it's like you said, it's like a Western, it's like a samurai story in space, except shittier, because Lone Wolf and Cub is actually good. I own the 6 movies,
yeah.
and
I mean,
the manga ends on a pretty good note. I mean, pretty dark note, but on a very interesting note. So
but yeah, so I mean, I think that's kind of my point, is that Star Wars fans collectively lost their shit because they had a middle of the road Western with Star Wars paint on it.
yeah.
And incredibly, Lucasfilm couldn't even manage to maintain middle of the road serialized Western for more than a season. I mean,
Yeah.
Talk about levels of incompetence that other than Lucasfilm, you basically have to work for the government to suck at your job that much and stay around.
And you have these 8-episode seasons. They're like, what, 30, 40-minute long episodes, and you somehow have filler? How?
Yes.
How? Like, seriously.
Well, what happens is you start off with a movie script, then they say, no, we need more subscribers on Disney Plus, so we're taking your movie script that was going to be released in theaters that was 2.5 hours, now needs to be 4 hours, so fill in an hour and a half of content. It is how you end up with filler in these seasons, or at least the early seasons. Once they decided that you were just going to be doing Disney Plus crap, they basically just stopped trying to have an overall series and said, we're going to talk to Moff Gideon in episodes 1, episodes 5, and episodes 8. I don't give a fuck what you do at 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Like, I miss the days of good, like all the Marvel shows. I haven't watched a single Marvel show, so I can't really comment too much, but I know they all suck. Well, for the most part. And one of the Marvel shows that I did watch, I want Daredevil. I want seasons 1, 2, and 3 of Daredevil again. I want that level of writing. Like, season 1, I think I watched all season 1 within a day. Season 2, I watched that all within a day. Season 3, even season 3, I watched all that within a day. Those were fucking good. I can't speak for the other shows that were related. Like, I like Luke Cage season 1. I like Jessica Jones season 1, and Iron Fist was shit. Punisher was good, not as good as Daredevil, but it was up there, and that was it. I mean, there was a handful of good shows and then quite a bit of shit, but even the shit I don't think was nearly as bad as what we're getting now with Disney Plus. Like, Disney Plus has ruined Marvel, in my opinion. I mean, it's ruined a lot. Sorry.
I mean, what is there to say about a company who just said, okay, our entire business is we're going to take comic books and turn them into movies, and went, every comic book we've made in the last 15 years has sucked balls. And we have single-handedly turned Marvel Comics from a money printing machine into a net loss for the corporation. And then went, okay, so we're going to take those 15 years of movies or of those comics, and we're going to make those into the movies. They didn't want Walter Simonson's Thor. They didn't want any of Frazetta's Daredevil. They didn't want Stan Lee's Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, or Captain America. They said, I want Victoria Alonso's all-new, all-Marvel shit, and we're going to make those into movies. And if I owned stock in Disney, and I said, and I heard them saying, we're going to make the movies out of the comics that lost money, you all need to be fired. Every single one of you looked at products that lost money and said, we need to take comic books that lost money and spend $250 million making a movie that will lose money.
That's stupid. That's utter. I mean, yeah, that's utter stupidity. Like, unless ESG.
Well, and yes, ESG plays a part in it, but the thing about ESG is you can't lose $1 billion in 10 movies and then throw on. I mean, dude, Indiana Jones is going to lose $500 million.
What does it? So yeah, Indiana Jones. I haven't even checked. What is the? I'm curious what the box office is. Like, I heard they spent a lot of money on this one.
So it was a $300 million budget. So the general rule of thumb is you have to make 2.77 back to break even. So if you spend $300 million on a movie,
And that doesn't include, like, I mean, I've heard this, that doesn't include marketing. And of course you have to consider, when the box office hits, there's the theaters get a cut. So I think in the case, it's usually 60-40. 40 goes to the theater, unless it was The Last Jedi, which Disney bullied the theaters into 70-30.
Yeah, so that's why you multiply it by 2.77.
Okay.
You say the theaters are going to take 50%, so that's why you have to multiply it by 2, and then your marketing is 77% of your production budget. So if you say 2.77 is the multiplier, Indiana Jones needs to make $831 million to break even.
And right now, according to this, they're only at 160. No.
Yes, and that's in the it's not the second weekend. So you expect it to have a drop of about 65%.
Yeah.
So Indiana Jones may not make $300 million, which would mean that it lost $531 million. That is roughly the GDP of Algeria.
Oh, shit.
I mean,
my God.
If anyone else on Earth launched a project that lost $531 million, they wouldn't be fired, they'd be executed.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm looking at Crystal Skull made Crystal Skull probably out of, I'm guessing, the budget, including everything, that Crystal Skull broke even 790.7 versus a budget of 185. Of course, you have to include everything that was included.
So yeah, 185 times 2.77, $512 million. Worldwide, it made 790. So worldwide, it made $278 million. So we are talking a swing of $750 million between Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny.
Yeah, that's nuts.
We are talking absurd sums of money. So, what is there even to say about what they're doing.
Yeah, it's like it's yeah, it's just it's so baffling with and it's been a lot, and this has been allowed to continue. This has been allowed to, you know, and as far as I know now, with, you know, and this has been talked about. I mean, I went to the theater. I told Steve, me and Steve went and we saw it. We saw it at the same time. We saw it. We saw it at the same time. We both said the same thing. There was nobody. There was only a few other people in the theater.
No,
And this was opening day. Opening day.
Dude, nobody wanted to see that movie. Everybody saw Phoebe Waller-Bridge in it, said, "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, wow, I'm an idiot." And by the fool me 11 times, why am I going back? Even the dumbest of Americans is going to stop going to the movie the 11th time they get burned on it. And I mean, it took, goddamn, it took us longer as a nation than I thought it was going to start recognizing the signs of trash. But everybody recognizes it now. Everybody now sees, okay, is there a race swap in this movie? Yes. Well, it's going to be shit. Is there a slightly younger than middle-aged brunette women giving a bunch of the lines that the main characters should be giving? Well, it's going to be shit. I mean, they know this now. And until something happens, until Hollywood proves that they are capable of getting out of their own way and making stuff other than shit, they're in trouble because nobody's going back to this.
I mean, I'm gonna sound a little. I think you might disagree on this, but I think this might be the end of the institution we know as Hollywood. I mean, I think other studios, other avenues are going to pop up eventually, and kind of, you know, take on that mantle, take on that power vacuum. As they'd say in The Wire.
No, I mean it's certainly going to be interesting. I mean, I'm gonna say this: if I had told you in 2004 that by 2009 Full Metal Alchemist and Dragon Ball Z would be burying the American comic book industry, you would have said I was crazy. If I would have told you in 1971 that in 14 years Toyota Camrys would be the most driven sedan on American roads, you would have said I was crazy. I absolutely believe that if fucking Hollywood can't get out of its own way and can't stop making this trash, that the Asian markets are going to stomp on them.
Yeah.
I mean, tell you what, watch that RRR movie and tell me that, I mean, we're not even talking China and Japan. Tell me that India isn't going to eat our fucking lunch.
Yeah, and I mean, do you see Indian cinema race swapping their characters or anything?
Fuck no.
No.
You don't see it in China. You don't see it in Japan. You don't see it anywhere.
Nope. Except in the West.
Yep.
So there you have it. I mean, like frickin' The Witcher, the fucking Witcher is based off of Polish fucking folklore.
I will refrain from giving you my razor fist rant about The Witcher, but you are correct in that, yes, when Lauren Histrich said, yes, we looked at Yennefer's magic and we decided we wanted it to be based on Indian dance moves. It's just like, would you shut up? Like, why are you in charge of this? Like, the one thing that you had going for you was Henry Cavill, who found you so fucking annoying that they basically had to leave. You basically ran the only thing in town making money out of town. I mean, a fucking child with an Xbox 360 could have put in fucking The Witcher 2 and done a better job than Lauren Histrich did. It's incredible.
I own The Witcher 3. I still have not gone around to playing it, mainly because I don't play a whole lot. Only time I ever play is when I stream online, and that's very rare now. So
It's phenomenal.
is
It is quite good. Um,
is it as good as
yes.
I believe it's open world. It's kind of like Skyrim in that regard.
Oh, it's way better than Skyrim.
Okay.
Um,
Is it more like is it like GTA? Kind of like you go to a place and you
No.
activate the story when you get to an area and everything, then you carry out a mission or a quest or whatever. Or is it more like Elden Ring where it's just open world and there's it's not like Elden Ring. Sorry. That was a dumb
no,
question.
it's. I'm trying to think it's like an old school open world game. So you remember back in like the early 2000s where your open world game was, and I guess it's kind of like Skyrim, but it's more. There's more cutscenes. It's a linear story, but did you play Fable?
I did not.
Okay,
But I know Fable.
yeah. So it's more similar to that. I don't know.
How about I know even though the character is not a silent protagonist, obviously Geralt, but is there like any like Legend of Zelda type of gameplay?
Yeah, that's a fairly good comparison. The Witcher is more about killing things.
Yeah. Than like puzzle solving and yeah.
Yeah. Yes, you have to talk to the people, but the people tell you what poison to put on your sword so you do more damage to the whatever monster you're fighting.
So I'm guessing the combat's a lot like Dark Souls and Elden Ring. No,
that is the one criticism that I do have about that game. The combat is not great. It is clunky. Okay. It's more similar to Skyrim than it is to Elden Ring
from Software. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So for what it's worth, but yeah, I would encourage you to play it. The story is great. Especially the DLCs.
Now, if I remember correctly, the series takes place after or outside the lore of the book, not outside the lore, but like outside the continuity of the book. So it's like after like years later or something.
Yeah, they play fast and loose with it. I think 1 takes place in between like 4 and 5 in the books, and then 2 and 3 are after the books. I don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but in there they take liberties with changing things. In the books and the show, he's Yaskir. In the games, he's Dandelion.
Mm-hmm.
They certainly mess around with stuff like that.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. So, all right. Well, eventually, I do have the first book. I do have the first Witcher book. So I have Witcher 3 on Xbox. I think I have it on PS4 actually. PS4, and I have the first Witcher book on my Kindle. So eventually, when I I just have so many first books of almost every major series out there today that's popular, whether it's fantasy or science fiction, and I have to read Lord of the Rings. That's what I'm currently reading right now, so I can be ready in time for the final White Cloaks stream, obviously. And I have an idea for the intro for that final episode. So
badass, man!
Stay tuned for that.
Speaking of books, wanted to follow up with you on that text you sent the other day. Yeah. Ooh. Ooh.
Keep it like that. All right. Sorry. Here it is. I got this is the first physical copy of Wheel of Time that I got. And I have to thank Salty Traveling Sea for pointing me to a website that sells these, because I tried looking at a bookstore in Chicago, a used bookstore, and the lady was like, "Oh, Robert Jordan? Nope, not a chance." So finding these were practically impossible. This is a brand new book. It's a brand new book, as you can tell right there. So, and it's beautiful. I love the artwork. I know everybody looks kind of old here, but it's great. I ordered the first three. So I ordered Eye of the World, The Great Hunt, and The Dragon Reborn. And as I progress and as I read more, I'm going to buy the physical book as I progress in the series. So that's why I got this book first.
Tell you what, man, you're gonna like that one. I've
listened to the first 11 chapters. So
okay.
Far. So I've already heard, the stone must stand, and of course there's the weird part of the book. I think it's chapter 2, where certain things happen to our Ta'veren. Like they get attacked by things that you wouldn't think would attack them, because it would just fundamentally break the laws of reality and physics and everything.
Yep.
So without spoiling it, but I'm just like, holy shit. So I'm just like, I'm 10 chapters in. I'm like, where are we going here? What's going to happen?
Yep.
But I kind of spoiled. I kind of have an idea based on the artwork where they're going.
Yep. So I think most people would agree 4, 5, and 6 is on the first reread where things really get great. I'm one of those people who thinks The Eye of the World is maybe the best one on your first reread, but I think 4, 5, and 6 on that first read through is really the part that sets that series apart from a lot of others.
I was going for one of my beautiful nightly, or one of my walks in Chicago, nightly walks that I usually do. I was listening to the last 5 chapters of The Great Hunt, or last 3 or 4. I forget. It basically the dawn is the answer to my call, or something like that. I forgot the name of the chapter. I was listening to it where they blow the horn, and I'm like, holy shit, this is even better as an audio with Michael Kramer, because I didn't listen to it. I actually did not listen to that chapter. I actually read the chapter, but it was even better listening to it. And so like the whole thing, just I was listening to like the last chapters of The Great Hunt. The first 3 books, The Great Hunt's ending is probably my favorite ending of the books. I love the end of The Dragon Reborn. I love the end of The Eye of the World. My God, if they would have included the end of The Eye of the World in that show that Rafe Judkins decided to make, instead of, how do you have your scary villain Baltimore look like a nice guy who wants to sell you a lemon?
Yep.
Because that's what he was. He did not come off as a scary villain they did show something with fiery eyes and a fiery mouth, and that was it. And then he turned into I won't say a lovable guy, but he didn't turn into, he just looked like another guy. I was like, seriously, like, what is this? And then you don't have the Agenor and Balthamol fight.
Yep.
Like I was
no
like,
Green Man, no nothing.
No Green Man, and none of that. And I was thinking anime. Like when I was reading it, I was imagining anime like Dragon Ball Z style of like rocks and like things like the ground opening up, fires shooting out, and then you have freaking Agenor is just floating there, or he's floating there, and he's walking on the air. And what I was expecting was a very creepy Kubrick look as he's staring at Rand, and while Moiraine is trying to fight him, and Moraine's freaking out. And then you see like his cape, or if I don't know if he had a cloak or a robe, but I expected the robe to kind of like move in the wind based on the flames and all that, something menacing, something that you'd see in an anime.
Yep.
And they didn't even have it. It's like, that's a big freaking moment. Like, it's like, how do you not have that? It's like not having Éowyn and the freaking Witch King of Angmar in the movie.
Yep.
You have to have that in there.
I couldn't agree more. Baltimore, Bush McFadden in the chat brings up a great point. Baltimore dies with, I don't know if it's roses or orchids or whatever it is bursting out of his eyeballs because the Green Man is a fucking killer.
Yeah, and like it's just like what if Treebeard took on, like a real wizard, like a really powerful wizard. That's basically what I would think would happen.
What if Treebeard fought Dumbledore?
Or what if, I mean,
Or,
like, what if Treebeard actually,
Dumbledore.
what if, like, what if, like, I could have seen, like, it would have been interesting. They didn't, it's interesting that Tolkien didn't do it. Like, it'd been nice to see a fight between Treebeard and Saruman because they attack Isengard. I just read the Flotsam and Jetsam chapter where I loved how, like, we don't see it, but Merry and Pippin recount it. Yep. I thought that was an interesting way of telling that part of the story because I forgot that's how they did it in the book compared to like in the movie we just see it. We see it, and the other difference is Treebeard always knew what Saruman was doing. He didn't need Merry and Pippin to convince them to go to war. At least I don't think. No. So it was just what's funny was the chapter. I mean, I know you guys talked about it in great detail. Many weeks ago, but the that chapter starts off pretty freaking wholesome. Like the last chapter ends with Merry and like I liked how the orc leader that was kind of like he was not a good guy, but he kept Merry and Pippin alive. So Tolkien gave him a I guess you could say a noble death. Like he went one-on-one with Éomer and Éomer slain him. Which I would say is a better death than being, killed like a freaking,
trampled. Yeah.
Trampled, like I thought I like there was a dignity. There was still a dignity there, even for an orc. I forgot his name, Ugluk or something. it was something like that. And then it goes into a wholesome, the whole Merry and Pippin thing in the Fangorn Forest. It starts off very wholesome, but then it builds into something. Then they chant their war song. I was like, this wasn't in the movie. This is awesome. Yep. Like I like there's so many great parts of the book that weren't in the movie that I like. There's a moment where Frodo tells really literally yells at Gollum and actually completely dominates his like there's a moment where Gollum's like, I'll hold the ring for you, master. He's like, no. And it was just like the most base thing. Like I couldn't imagine Elijah Wood pulling that off. So I had to imagine Frodo as like another actor or Keanu Reeves. Or not even Keanu Reeves, but like someone that had like an authority or something, someone who's based. Same with Aragorn. Like I imagine like I actually imagine their animated counterparts.
Okay.
If you ever seen the Bakshi movie, so like Aragorn looks older, he's got some gray, and he's more authoritative. He's more based, he's more sure of himself. And when he fights, he screams Elendil, and he actually names the sword Anduril, because it was forged. He already forged it. It didn't have to be forged.
Flame of the West. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a great moment where where Aragorn tells Éomer when they first encounter the riders of the Rohirrim that he's like I need you. He's like, answer me now. Like, are you gonna help me or gonna not? You answer me now. That was another great moment too. So there was a lot of great stuff that the books had that I just can't even remember now.
I am 100% on board. Release the 17-hour cut.
Yes.
I want to see 3 movies equaling out 50 hours of exactly 100% book accurate.
This is what's going to break my heart to talk about. But when Amazon first announced that they were going to adapt or that they got the rights to Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, that's what I thought was going to happen initially. And then they talked about the Second Age. I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. But then with, and this was 2017. This was when this whole shitty thing was starting. But even at that point, I was just like, maybe they'll do something like this. Nope.
And now Rings of Power.
And now, you got Rings of Power. And then you heard the Harry Potter announcement. Do you think they're going to do something similar?
Oh fuck yeah, we're getting Black Hermione, no question.
Hermione, or do you think they're going to cover? Did they literally say they're going to cover like Harry Potter? Like they're not going to cover like another era like they did with the Fantastic Beasts movies?
No, they're going to do every year of school is going to be I think they said it was going to be a 10 episode season.
I don't know how they do it with the first two, because the first two were pretty short. Like I feel the movies were pretty faithful.
Oh yeah, and plus I'm just going to tell you, anybody who's ever watched a child actor knows a 10-hour reel of 11-year-olds acting is going to be the most excruciating thing in the world. Like,
Yes,
fuck me.
I know. But like, especially books 4, 5, 6 in particular, maybe even 3, I felt like they cut too much out. Like they made the movie shorter, yet the books were like hundreds of pages longer. Like
Significantly.
Harry Potter 4 was 730 pages hardcover.
Yes.
Book 5 was the longest. It was 830 pages.
Yes.
How do you adapt that into a 2-hour movie?
I mean, you cut out the worst of J.K. Rowling's impulses. I mean,
Not wrong there.
I mean, I will always say if the Harry Potter series had been written by an American, it would be considered the greatest series of all time, because sports would have made sense. Harry Potter would have gotten laid on the regular. They would have actually had some balls. You've seen Dane's thing about the J.K. Rowling and the progressive liberals mindset and how it plays into the defeat of Voldemort, right?
I don't think I did.
Basically, it was the punchline is Harry Potter defeats Voldemort by tricking him into a magical technicality, because your modern liberal is so incapable of considering dramatic, violent, responsive action that for him to do that would be entirely alien to her mind. The idea of Harry Potter drawing his wand, going into training, learning how to be a magical badass for 4 years, and then beating the shit out of Voldemort in a duel is something that she can't even comprehend. She can't wrap her brain around it.
Yeah.
So her solution to Harry Potter was to just have him hang out and get lucky at the end of the series because he had to win somehow.
If I remember correctly, they came up with a wand or something. There was like a wand that doesn't. I forget what the wand was called, but the wand did not allow like the person, the owner, to be harmed, and that's why the blast repelled and killed him, just like it did. Like it was basically a repeat of what happened when he was a baby, except with the baby. When he was a baby, there was like a charm. The mother risks
his mother
sacrifices
her.
Yeah, and so that charm, protects him.
Yeah, whereas in the finale, Voldemort broke the rules by using a wand he wasn't allowed to do, and so he died.
Yeah, I forget what they call it, the Elder Wand, or I forget what it was.
The Elder Wand, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can't help but, I read, and I give this speech to everybody whoever talks to me about Harry Potter. I read the end of Order of the Phoenix, where they get back. Sirius Black has just died.
Yeah.
And Harry's friends all went to battle with him. They all went to the Ministry of Magic knowing they were going to be fighting Voldemort. And they get back, and at the end, Luna Lovegood's possessions have been stolen by her housemates and hidden throughout the castle. So she has to miss the feast trying to track down all of her things so she can go home. And all I could think is, if Harry Potter had an ounce of balls, Ravenclaw House wouldn't exist anymore. The retribution that he would have for those people being mean to his cute little friend who went to battle with him to fight basically evil magic mecha Hitler, he would destroy them. He would tear them limb from limb. and instead he limply walks off to the train station and does nothing about it.
Wait. I didn't fully follow that. So, what about Ravenclaw?
So, Luna Lovegood.
Yeah.
So at the end of the 5th book, all the Ravenclaws steal her shit and hide them throughout the castle because they're bullying her.
Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, and then so she goes and looks.
So she has to miss her end of the year feast because she has to go find all of the possessions that her housemates have stolen from her.
Oh, okay.
And if Harry Potter was even remotely anything close to a hero, there would have been public executions. You're not allowed to bully the hero's best friend who did nothing wrong, who is still the nicest, kindest person in the castle, and not have the hero at least punch somebody in the face and make them swear to fix their shit. But because Harry Potter is a fucking loser, that doesn't happen.
You said due to the writing of J.K. Rowling.
Because she is incapable of considering dramatic, violent action as morally right. And actually, I'm going to loop this back to Ted Lasso.
Okay.
So Ted Lasso's big thing was we are going to show positive masculinity. Like that was the thing. And they did a phenomenal job of it. But the one scene that I will always remind people that happened is Roy Kent tried several times to get Colin and Isaac to stop bullying Nate. He asked them several times. He asked Jamie to get them to stop. And they didn't listen. And they continued to bully him. So Roy Kent walked into the bar, punched Colin in the face, and yelled at all three of them, "Stop bullying Nate." He then accused Jamie Tart of being a child for drinking vanilla vodka and left. And you can even see it in the scene, in the way that she responds to his greeting her. Keely Jones had never been more turned on in her life. And season 1 of Ted Lasso knew that there is a portion of that that positive masculinity involves the ability and the willingness to do that. And Harry Potter never had that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a big thing in Wheel of Time, especially with, Perrin, especially the conversation he has with Elias when they're in the Tinkers, when they're hanging out with the Tinkers in Eye of the World. Like there's a point, or even maybe even after that, I forget, maybe it's I forget what chapter it is, but there's a point where, sometimes it's a good thing to have the ability to be capable of violence, but to only use it when it truly needs to be. It's just you have to hate it. You have to hate it, but you have to be willing to use it when you need to. Correct.
And I'll say
I hope that's kind of what you were getting at. With this too.
Very, very much so. But I will say your conversation is better. But the one I was thinking of was the one where he's talking to Aram's grandmother, and Aram's grandmother says, "Well, yes, an axe can cut down a tree, but in the act of cutting down a tree, the axe will become blunter than it was, and the sap from the tree may cause the axe to pit." And Perrin basically looks at her and goes, "What the fuck are you talking about, you fucking ignorant dumbass?" But he's too nice to say it.
Yeah.
And, that's the quintessential conversation about this topic. And Rowling is just incapable of considering that to be the correct course of action because she's never been put in that situation before.
Yeah. And I'm curious if it's just maybe it's more of a a male author would put incorporated versus what a female author would put in?
I think that's part of it, but I think there's also, I think that women with conservative values are capable of doing it. I look at something like, Anne McCaffrey's Dragon Riders of Pern.
Okay.
Fnor fucking goes and gets it done. Like, hey boys, we have thread we got to burn out of the sky. Let's go get on our dragons and let's go handle this shit.
Mhm.
And I think to a large extent we're seeing I think a lot of the collapse of Hollywood is caused by the liberal woman ideology of, first of all, the main character has to look exactly like me. So that's why we are seeing this rush of British brunettes in their middle ages being pushed into these roles. They feel the need to be actively involved in the plot, basically in all things, which is why you see things like, Wheel of Time or this recent Indiana Jones thing, where basically your traditional, main characters are basically being relegated to the side. There is a lack of appreciation for training and earning sort of your skills and your abilities, because I think that is one thing that generally sticks out to a male audience is, you want to cheer on your bro at the gym. You want to see him working hard. You want to see him earning what he's doing.
Yeah.
And then I think there's a lack of respect for definitive, strong, violent action that, defines so many of these properties. And so basically, but for ideological reasons, we have flooded Hollywood with the absolute worst kind of person to tell these stories. And what we're seeing is a result of, and the reason that all of our movies are shit nowadays, is because people that are ideologically disinclined to make good stories are now telling all the stories.
Yeah. And people that feel the other way are usually either, blackballed or just not just they're cut off. They're cut off and they're not part of the creative process anymore.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. Like, one person that speaks up about this, Chuck Dixon. Especially, we all know him for Wheel of Time, and he's worked on, I think he's been part
He's
of
a fucking comics legend.
Yeah, he's a freaking, yeah. And I don't think I don't think he gets any work from these bigger companies because of that. So
Chuck Dixon is a soft conservative. Like, we're not talking even Ron DeSantis here. We are talking a very middle of the road conservative leaning person in Chuck Dixon, and he's been blackballed. Not only will he not get work from the big two, if you are getting work from the big two, you can lose your work at the big two for speaking with Chuck Dixon. Like, that is the level of intellectual purity test that Marvel and DC Comics is running right now. It's nuts.
Yeah, that's insane. And this is, and understanding this is exactly why I've completely, like I said, I've disengaged from Star Trek. I've disengaged from Marvel and DC. I saw Spider-Man because a buddy of mine wanted to see Spider-Man. And I don't know how you felt about No Way Home. I actually really enjoyed No Way Home based on just, as a casual viewer, I don't know nearly as much about, Spider-Man and everything as the other person. I've only watched the animated show and I've seen the Sam Raimi movies, and that's it. And I felt like there was more compared to other Marvel movies. I felt like there was actually a lot of weight to this movie. There were stakes, and Tom Holland was getting his ass kicked by fucking Willem Dafoe. Yep. Willem Dafoe is my rest in peace, my father, but Willem Dafoe, same age as my dad. You have to bring back a villain from 2 decades ago to be a bigger threat than any, newly created villain today.
Correct.
Like, seriously, like, what is it? Seriously, like, you had to. I like the movie, but still, like, why is this not a thing?
Okay, so this is actually wild. You know why those movies are the only ones that are passably good?
Why?
Because neither Marvel nor Sony has complete control over them. So, in order to do anything in any of those movies, both sides have to agree. So when Marvel says, "We want to make this movie about Zendaya," Sony says, "The fuck you will." When Sony says, "We want to jam in Craven the Hunter and make him the main bad guy," Marvel says, "Fuck no." And basically, because neither one will allow the other to go super far off the reservation, they basically have to make a basically sort of right down the middle version of the character, because neither one will let the other one do anything completely insane.
That's an interesting. That's interesting.
I mean,
I think I could buy that. I definitely think I can buy it. It's a fucking fluke,
yes,
and it's because Spider-Man's in such a unique position.
because literally a child could make a passable Spider-Man movie, and by passable I mean relative to everything else out here. Literally, two sets of boardrooms are able to make a passable Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
Is all it is, because they won't let the other one destroy it. Whereas Disney and Marvel will gladly destroy a Jesus Christ, what was the last fucking movie we had? Doctor Strange movie? Like,
Sam Raimi as director.
yeah, and a director is such a
Yeah,
false.
they're hired. They hired. They're just there.
Yeah, I mean,
they're hired guns basically. No vision.
To call Sam Raimi a director is inaccurate. He is closer to a principal photographer than he is a director in the traditional sense. So,
And that goes for all the directors of these MCU films, basically.
yeah, and it's pathetic, but that's where we're at with it, and that's sort of why they've set this car on fire and seem to be walking away from it. Hopefully, though.
Yeah, I haven't followed. I don't even know what's next for Marvel. Like I haven't been paying attention.
Well, I think we're currently shitting on Nick Fury in Secret Invasion, if the Disparo videos are anything to go by. Yeah, fuck that. I guess they're getting Jonathan Majors back. I guess he paid off the slut, and now they're no longer pressing charges with him. Oh, thank you, Peter York. I appreciate that.
Oh, right. Well, it's been 3 hours. We've been talking for 3 hours. It doesn't feel like 3 hours. So
No, this is going by quick.
So I just have to ask, I wanted to, since we've been talking about television, you watch Severance. Has there been any other shows that you've been watching that you like? Currently?
So I cannot recommend this, but I was watching Animal Control. It is a shitty sitcom on Fox with Joel McHale, who is Jeff from Community. And it's like if somebody took all of the rejected Community scripts and took them out of a community college and put them into an animal control department in a Seattle government and said, just make this. And basically what I'm concluding is that 40% of Community is better than anything else on network television right now. And for something to turn on as I fall asleep, it is adequate.
I know you guys gave me crap about this. Sorry, I've never watched Community. I'm assuming that's a sitcom.
God, yes, it is fucking incredible.
Now I think that came out in the early 2010s, if I remember correctly,
or the late aughts.
All right.
I will always say Community is what people think The Office is. in the sense that like everybody talks about The Office like it's the funniest thing on earth.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, The Office was all the craze when I was in college in the aughts, and so that's all I heard about. I never heard of Community. I'll be honest, I've never heard of Community, but I think that was later, and I stopped paying attention to uh, modern sitcoms. Like for me, it kind of ended with Seinfeld.
That's
I was actually, I mean, like Seinfeld was a big deal. I was in seventh grade when that ended. After that, I just if there were sitcoms, I my friends would watch some of them. I watch it with them. I'd be like,
It's all
it's
right.
okay. Like I didn't get. I watched a few episodes of The Office, and I was like, I mean, I was young. I was in college, but I just didn't find it funny. Now I think I find now after watching a few, I think I appreciate it more. But
So I am. I had to force myself to get through The Office. I did not enjoy it, and The Office is one of those things. Do you enjoy secondhand embarrassment? Because if you can tolerate secondhand embarrassment, you can get through.
when you say secondhand embarrassment, what exactly do you mean?
How do you understand? Like, how do you react to Michael Scott doing something cringy and embarrassing? Do you laugh at him, or do you kind of cringe and feel bad for him?
The latter.
Okay, so then you don't like The Office. So that how you react to someone embarrassing themselves is how it governs how much you like The Office.
I think the only thing I laughed about The Office was like the whole what's his name? What's the dude's name? Dwight.
Yeah, Jim and Dwight.
Yeah, Jim and Dwight. I think that's stuff that I found the most funny.
Yep. And PD York has a great comment. Community understands nerd culture. The Big Bang Theory exploits it. Is I think how I would is a pretty darn succinct summary of what that's like.
The
And
Big Bang Theory I am familiar with. I heard it was only good for 2 seasons, and then they just kept making more.
yep. And Dempsey, you are correct in very much the same vein that the first season of Parks and Rec was Midwestern face making fun of Midwesterners without knowing the references.
Parks and Rec, I gotta watch. I've seen a whole bunch of Ron Swanson clips, and I thought they were hilarious.
So you joke. I almost put the Ron Swanson Pyramid of Greatness in the car. It was a big poster, like a 4 foot by 3 foot poster, and unfortunately the car was full. Otherwise, it would probably be above the fireplace right there. It's, you should look up the Ron Swanson Pyramid of Greatness.
All right, I'll have to Ron Swanson Pyramid of Greatness. All right, I'll definitely have to do that. Community, I think Community is on Hulu, I believe. So
It
what kind of
bounces back and forth between Hulu and Netflix every.
So is Community more like what kind of humor is it like? Just typical situation comedy? Is it the characters doing selfish things, or is it characters doing, like you said in The Office, embarrassing things?
So it's they're at a community college, and it's 6 people that are all very different, trying to get through community college. And Jeff McHale is the actor. Jeff Winger is a brilliant attorney. He is a brilliant arguer, and a sort of a very charismatic, good-looking, brilliant negotiator, who faked his law degree, or his bachelor's degree. He just sweet talked he got a fake bachelor's degree online and just sweet talked his way through the process.
So kind of like what Jimmy did in Better Call Saul, America,
Yes.
Samoa. Okay.
Yep. His was Columbia. The joke was, I thought you got your bachelor's degree in Columbia, and he said, I do. Now I need one from America. Um, so, um, uh, basically, he has to use his skills to negotiate and survive community college, and it's just a delightful cast of characters. And
So is it like a more wholesome comedy type of,
yeah,
kind of like your Ted Lasso almost?
not nearly to that extent, but it is rather wholesome.
Okay.
The Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, is in it before he went big. Chevy Chase is in it for the first couple seasons. He's great. Jesus, what is Annie's actor? Jesus, what is Chad? Help me out here. Who plays Annie Edison?
Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick
yeah.
tock. Okay. So yeah, I'll have to check out a couple episodes. I have a huge.
I know.
list of
I just
shows.
keep throwing shit at you.
Well, I asked, and so this is okay. So that's definitely it. Bush says Jillian.
Jillian Jacobs is Britta, not Annie.
Okay.
The chick from Glow. Yes, the chick from Glow. Peter York, help me out here. Who am I talking about?
What's Glow?
It's a show about female wrestling.
Oh, okay. I've seen that one. I've seen that one online too.
Yes, Peter York. Jillian Jacobs is still cute. Allison Brie? Yes, Allison Brie. Because I keep thinking it was Brie Larson, and I was like, no, she's in it very briefly, but no, she's not in it. But yes, Allison Brie.
Allison Brie. Okay.
Yes, Dempsey, bringing it home. I need to get some new batteries.
Glow, gorgeous ladies of wrestling. There you go.
Yep. I think she dumps him out in that, if I remember correctly. Dempsey, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I guess I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. All right. So yeah. So okay. Community is down. So all right. All right. But Alex, anything you want to promote?
So I'm hoping to have a video out this weekend. The ranking the Wheel of Time characters on the Crazy Hot scale. So
Lanfear would be like obviously 10 or
10 and
whatever.
10.
10 and 10.
She's in the Amber Heard zone.
So I had we were talking about this. I was talking about this with Salty and Nathan. You know who I think would be a great Lanfear if this was the 70s? Caroline Munro. She was the woman in the helicopter in The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yep.
Like she has the black hair. She got the look. I think she's even got the height to be Lanfear.
Bush, Elaine is a 9 on the hot and a 10 on the crazy. So yes, we are. She's scoring very highly. Dempsey, yes, you are correct. You gotta. I got a kind of process of elimination this. I think that's Nynaeve.
That braid?
I think that's a braid. Yes. Dempsey, Alexandra Daddario does get it done. My pick would have been Megan Fox.
I think Megan Fox is like tiny though, but yeah.
I mean, Perrin is taller than Rand, who's taller than Loyal. Like, clearly, this show doesn't give a fuck about height.
That's true. That's true. So, all right. So, okay.
Anything? I like that I'm getting some conversation already in this.
Daddario greater than Heard. Yeah. Yes. And Price not as smelly either.
Yes.
Okay, but so any other I love that parent video that you did. That parent video, I mean that really grew you guys quite a bit. And so and by the way, happy that you guys got monetized, and hopefully hopefully things will keep going good for the White Cloaks.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you talking me through that, man. That was driving me nuts. So thank you. Yeah, well, I mean, other than that, it's not this weekend, but next weekend you're coming on for the last part of Return of the King. We got to scour the Shire.
Yeah.
So that and, I think Dane has a super deep book club read for Eye of the World coming up.
Yeah, something that I can't watch.
Yes, yes, and
So
yeah, Dempsey. They tried to do Miguel, but he got fat, so that failed.
I liked, I was gonna say Cobra Kai. That's another show that I really enjoyed. Even with there was one I did want to talk a little bit about Cobra Kai. I liked the 5th season. I just didn't like how they incorporated Mike Barnes.
Agreed. I would have I would have done full Lethal Weapon, and they just would have been fucking around Mexico, beating up cartel members with karate. But
Yeah,
it was fine. And Dempsey, yeah, as far as Stranger Things, they tried with the black kid. He got annoying and gay.
in Stranger Things.
Yes.
I like Strange. I loved the 4th season. That
So did I.
show that was I thought that was phenomenal.
Agreed. The Eddie playing the guitar in Hell was fucking awesome.
That and I loved. I don't know how you feel about the new villain. I liked the new villain Vecna,
It was all right.
and I loved how there was the moment where they're in the house in California, and the guys are being killed, and the rest of them are trying to get out of the house, and you're seeing it from like their point of view as they're being shot at from all different directions. They're trying to get to the van, and they get the fuck out of there. I thought that was great. Like that just took me off. That's just like, holy shit, what is this? So that show's coming to an end too. And I hopefully they can stick the landing. I liked all the seasons. I mean, I know season 3 people didn't like season 3 with the Russians. I was okay with it.
There were pros and cons to that. The black kid's sister made me want to kill myself, but
Yeah. I just had to kind of filter her out.
Yep.
So, but yeah, she was terrible. She was the worst thing. I think she got better. She got a little bit better in season 4. So,
yeah.
All right, but yeah, for me, I got there. I want to do a wheel. I want to make a Wheel of Time video. I want to make an Eye of the World video, a review of Eye of the World.
Fuck yeah, man.
And I haven't done a book review before, but that's one thing I want to do. I want to do that. I keep talking about that anime, Legend of Galactic Heroes. I want to make a video about that, why I recommend that. And of course, there's my 2001 retrospective that I've been a complete slacker on the last several weeks. So that's something I got to do. And I want to keep doing these chats, these casual chats each week. I was hoping to get all 3 of you guys. I was hoping to get you, Dane, and Pips. But yeah, Pips is really busy with life, new job, and Dane is, I don't know. I'll have to talk to Dane. I guess I could get him one by one. We'll talk about probably Star Trek Voyager or something. So
there you go.
We'll figure something out. But I want to try get more people, get just a casual chat. I thought this was great. I thought Alex, I think you're a great guest. I thought you're a great guest, and I think this might be the first time that just you and me had a one-on-one conversation.
Yep. I think on stream anyway. We talk fairly regularly on outside of YouTube, I think so.
Yeah. And so I met you and Pips and White Cloaks through Prophet of the Dragon. And if you don't know, subscribe to Prophet of the Dragon, because I'm a shill. If I'm a shill for anything, I'm a shill for Steve.
For French.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. So, once Lord of the Rings is read, I'm going to start, like, I've been listening to the audiobook, but I'm going to be reading this, and I'm going to be resuming the Wheel of Time streams. So hopefully the week after the final Lord of the Rings White Cloak stream, I'm going to go back to doing these on Sunday nights. And hopefully this is a thicker book. This is thicker. So there might be more parts to this. So, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, I just have to get some get some guests for this. So I have to start planning. So, all right.
I love that book. If you need a guest, let me know.
Oh, dude, you're definitely gonna be a guest. That's a no-brainer. So, all right, guys. Once again, subscribe to the White Cloaks and subscribe to Prophet of the Dragon, Salty. Subscribe to Dempsey, who's leaving all the links there. He's been making music for me and for the White Cloaks. So definitely subscribe to him. And of course, he gives me some of this, every time I show for him. So, but other than that, everybody, take care. Have a good night. And instead of staying safe, stay incorporeal.
There you go.